Hey gang, welcome to Two Blokes from Down Under. I'm Simon Guthrie. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Ben Ennis. How are you, Benny?
Pretty good, Simon, and you?
Very well, thank you, mate.
That's
Ben,
good.
Season 2 of Two Blokes from Down Under is brought to us by Ken Muston Automotive for all your motoring needs. Pop down and see the team for Isuzu, Ute, Ram, Trucks, MG, Jeep, Subaru and Mercedes-Benz. That's Ken Muston Automotive, 215 Benalla Road, Shepparton. And Ben, this episode is brought to us by Extons of Benalla, proudly family owned and operated since 1952. Extons are your one-stop shop for all your earthworks, bulk haulage and equipment sales. You can find them at 85 Gilly Street, Benalla, or jump onto your website at extons.com.au. Ben, our next guest, mate.
Yep.
You probably know a little bit about.
Yep.
You probably know a bit about what he does.
There's not much I don't know. Oh, well, I think I don't know.
Bit of a passion for you, this next thing, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Has been forever.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So, our next guest needs no introductions if you're familiar with the Australian show car scene or Street Machine magazine. For those who aren't familiar, he's achieved way too much to mention when it comes to classic car restorations and custom builds. Along with his team, he's built numerous Street Machine cover cars, top elite show cars, and even taken on the Yankees on their own turf with one of Australia's most well-known show cars, the XBOSS. He's here to take us through his journey in more detail from Maskell's Custom and Classics. Welcome to Two Blokes from Down Under, Greg Maskell. How are you, Greg?
Good, mate. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Glad you're here.
It's good to be here.
Greg, tell us a little bit about where it all began for you, mate. So, where were you born?
I was born here in Shepparton. I hadn't funnily asked that question. I have a collection of cars that all date from 1967 because that's the year I was born. So I'm a big fan of the number 67. So
Okay.
if you're going to ask questions about what cars I've got, it's easy. From 1967. We'll get that off done. It's already
They're all
finished.
67s.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, except for the one I'm driving now out the front. So, yeah. And there's a few of them.
Well, there you go. I learned
Yeah.
something we didn't know already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were raised in Shep or you
1U.
in one year?
So, born in Shep, raised in 1U. Old man worked at SPC for 40 years. Mum was a relief milker, stay-at-home mum. She worked every weekend and become a share farmer.
Yeah.
So we were sort of always messing around. We lived in town, but we were always messing around down the creek or, out on farms with mum and dad
Yeah.
when they were
Okay.
doing stuff. So, yeah.
Did you go to school in Shep or one year or
Went to primary school in 1U and then to North Tech. Or
North
to some
Tech.
people, it's North Tech. That old joke never gets old.
Classic.
did you do any sport when you were younger or not really?
No, not really. We did a little bit when I was a kid. Our primary school teacher was a big sports fanatic, so we did the usual tennis, bit of badminton and a bit of football, but I wasn't good at any of it,
Yeah.
like at all. Like,
So you just like tinkering from a young age or?
no, I didn't really know what I was doing or mucking around with. I like kind of messing around with wood
Oh, yeah.
for a short period of time. Thought I was going to do something in that, and then in the mechanical side, we never had anything to mess around with. Dad's amount of tools was, I think it was a Sid Chrome socket set
Yeah.
and a bit of a toolbox in his ute that we weren't allowed near because we kept losing stuff. And I think we had a hammer floating around. We didn't have a vice or anything.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we did, really, it wasn't something we did until I played a bit of footy in the thirds and, as previously spoken, was no good at it. And I knew there was no future there. But then we weren't allowed to have a motorbike either for good reason. And then, because I've got an older brother and a younger sister,
Yeah.
and a lot of mates had motorbikes in 1U at the back, and they would hoon around, and we'd sort of go and hang out with them and occasionally get a bit of a free ride on one of their bikes or something like that. But we weren't allowed to have any of that. And then by the time I was probably 16, my brother had his license, and his mates and guys that we grew up with, or kids we grew up with in school and around 1U had their license, and they were messing around with cars, modified cars and stuff like that. And they were always pretty fast and things, and that kind of got the interest sort of happening. I'd jump into cars with them and we'd go to car shows or to the drags. We're always at the drags. Always seem to be at the drags every weekend or the boats or something. And that's kind of where it started, And then I got my motorbike license at 17 and so 17 and 9 months and hooned around on my motorbike, got my car license, which I didn't seem to be able to keep for some reason.
As in you kept getting pinched or?
4 licenses before I was, and I had them all back before I was 21. My younger sister, she's 3 years younger than me, she was off her P's before me.
Did you always get caught speeding?
Always.
Yeah, okay.
Always. So it was actually 5 if you include the motorbike license.
Oh,
Good
dear.
start. Did you finish school at North Tech? Or?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. That's another weird story. When I was at North Tech, we were the first year to go to, there was year 11 and then they sort of did a year 12 thing, which was really bizarre because they'd never done it and there was no real set standard and they didn't know what they were doing. And I did the first 3 months of that and then just went, nah, this is not working. So that was it. I left there and still not really into cars. The only thing, so probably at that stage there, a couple of mates got apprenticeships and I really had no focus or goal or direction. I was just sort of a bit of a rat bag and running amok. And then I think I bought my Tirana and had that. And then I think it was my first license when I lost that. One of my mates who was a mechanic said, "Oh, let's pull the motor out and we'll fix it while you got no license." And then the panel beater mate went, yeah, let's pull it apart and we'll fix it and paint it and do it up for you. So we all went and pulled it apart and that was it. They all buggered off. And then, so I had no license and no car put together. It was all in a million bits, no paint, no nothing. And so I got my license back and then...
Rode your push bike.
I did, actually, yeah. Rode me pushy for a while, had me motorbike and then ended up buying another car while the Tirana was pulled apart, which was a Fairlane. And then what we did was, it was sort of cruising around. It was just a piece of junk, 6-cylinder car, but it was fun and we could cruise it. And then so one of the mates said something about a car show in Canberra. It was the first one, not like it hadn't been on, but it was going to be pretty big. So we put the Tirana motor in one of the HR ute that one of my mates had, and we drove that there, and that was pretty cool and fun, and it was the first summer nats.
Oh, really?
And then the next year, I figured, well, the Fairlane needs to be better than it is, and in true form, as you do, you go into summer nats, so you leave it till 2 weeks before you go into summer nats.
And you work all day and night on it?
All day and night, and we put a V8, an auto, diff, brakes, wheels, lowered it, painted it, trimmed it in about 2.5 weeks. And it was madness. And then drove that to summer nats and cruised it around. And then, and that sort of stayed like it was for a couple of years. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of how I got into cars. I didn't have a goal to be in cars or something like that.
So did you get a job when you left school and were you a mechanic or?
No. So I've never done a trade.
Yeah.
Ever. So I left school and then I pretty much bummed around and just did odd jobs here and there. But the first real job I had was at Furphy's at the foundry. And I worked there for a couple of years and then...
welding or?
No, in the foundry, just as in making cast seats and cast iron stuff stuff like that. And that was pretty hard yakka. That's definitely the hardest job I've ever had. It was really gut busting work, Like when you were pouring molten metal and it's a 40-degree day, it was 60 degrees in the foundry.
Yeah.
It was good in winter, but summer would suck.
Free heating.
Yeah, free heating. And then, so then I left there and then went to Telford's and I was there for a couple of years. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to learn how to work on cars because I my trailer was still pulled apart, right? And I didn't have the fair lane at this stage. So what I wanted to do, I wanted a job after hours, sort of just learning how to be a mechanic. And I sort of thought I knew of 3 places in Shep that I could probably go and ask because they kind of worked after hours as well. And the first one I went to was Ian Rose. And Rosie was a legend mechanic in his day, and he still is a brilliant mechanic. And Rosie was notoriously known for starting at midday and finishing midnight or later. So this worked perfect. I'd knock off at Furphy's at 3:30, ride me pushy around to his workshop and work there until about 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever, and then ride home, tea, back to Furphy. So it sort of worked really well. And he taught me a lot. But the main thing he taught me is if you're going to do something, do it right. Don't do it twice. So do it right the first time. Take your time, get it right. And he just hammered that into me all the time. And he was really good. And it was a real sort of social atmosphere there. His mates would call around and they'd run a mark a bit, just on the piss and just running a mark and having fun. And I'd be working away and watching them, You got to remember these guys are 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
And or 30 years older than me. And
How old were you at this stage? 18? 19?
No, I was 19 when I started doing that. And then I worked for Rosie after hours until about, I reckon I was about 21. And what happened in the middle of all this, so I'd gone from Furphy's and then gone to Telford's, and then Rosie got me a job at Delta Automotive, machine and engines and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I went there, and then we had the financial crisis thing, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
You know it?
No, this is 91, 92. So this is the recession we had to have.
Oh, okay. Yep.
When things were really bad. And the work just dried up everywhere. And so I was on the dole and then doing a bit of washing dishes at night or anything I could get, to make ends meet. And the girlfriend at the time, she had a Falcon and, we were sort of, she'd work hours and I'd work hours and just trying to make things meet. And then, so I finished up at Delta and then I actually went back to Telford's. So I was there for a fair while after that. So I basically just was a welder there, or I rolled purlins or did the concrete or whatever they wanted. I was just sort of everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
But still no
Formal
formal training
or anything like that.
So about this time, you'd obviously moved into town when you're talking about riding your bike to work and stuff. So moved out from mum and dad's, moved into Shep with what, a mate or?
Well, I sort of had to because I had no license.
Yeah.
So I'd moved. I think once I moved in with a mate at his mum and dad's.
Yeah.
Crashed on the couch for 3 months.
Well.
And then another time I just rented a little unit,
Yeah.
in a group of flats and stuff like that, and that was pretty cool. No TV or anything, couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Buying food and things like that was
Yep.
a necessity. And car parts, and then
Car parts. Food and car parts.
Yeah.
pretty much all I could buy.
Oh, that's good.
So it was sort of just one of those times where you just, I don't know, your mates are out partying and you're doing this and that, and just running a muck and going to drags all the time and spending money on cars. So everything else sort of just went by the wayside, So we did, and I still wasn't looking for a job in the automotive industry at all. And then it's sort of what happened from there is when I was at Telford's the second time, and then by this stage, I'd actually moved back to Wunyu. Mum and Dad had gone through a bit of a divorce, still good mates, but a divorce. So it was just me and my old man living there. And I built I worked on a couple of my own cars, and then I built a Mustang, a 67 Fastback, and just out of Dad's back shed, painted it there, and just sort of self-taught how to paint and how to, just ask questions from different people. And I built the motor and, did all sorts of things on that car. And then, it sort of taught me a lot because I was in the deep end, but I bought that car on the 13th of July and drove it to Summernats. I actually registered it on the 23rd of December. So 6 months, well, less than 6 months, whatever the maths is on that.
Yeah.
I'm not good at maths.
No, it's okay. Close enough.
So, yeah, and then we drove it to Summernats, Jules and I. And Jules and I are still together. We've been together for about 30 years.
Yeah,
so she's
okay.
put up with the madness the whole time. And she's a full-on car chick as well.
Yeah,
She loves the cars.
Well, that certainly helps, doesn't it?
Oh, huge. Yeah, especially with what we were doing. And, your whole life evolved around cars. Still does. But it was everything. All your mates were into cars. Everybody you knew was into cars.
Social events was cars.
Cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything was cars. So, and then...
So that was the first car you ever built from ground up? Or
That was, the very first one that I built.
You've obviously put a few together, like
Yeah.
Fairlane and stuff, but this is the one that actually...
I'd pulled things apart and fixed them and put them, but that was the car that I'd done pretty much everything on.
Yeah.
Just yourself.
Just myself, yeah. And I had a couple of mates come and help me, especially because the time frame was getting away. So that was good. And then I think I did my ute at some stage. And that was another one I built at Dad's. And so that was sort of good because Dad had this little shed out the back and I just chipped away. And he worked at SPC and he did night shift and he'd come home midnight, 1 o'clock, and I'd be in the shed working away. He'd sit there and have a chat and then he'd go to bed. I'd go to bed not long after. And then I'd get up at 5 to get to Telford's by 6 so as I could get some overtime in, or 7. And then back home and back in the shed, and it was sort of a bit of a thing.
4 or 5 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Don't know what you keep whinging about, Ben.
No. It's all right.
That went for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then Jules and I bought a house out at Katandra, and that's when it really kicked in, the car thing. From there she had horses, had cars, and I was working on my cars, and then the guys at Telford's would ask me, can you fix the brakes? Or, it sort of grown over a couple of years. So one guy asked me to paint his ute, and I painted that, and another guy wanted a motor built, so I pulled the motor out and fixed that and put it back in, and just started working on other people's cars. And then that got out of hand because I was trying to build my cars and work on other people's cars. So at this stage, I'm still working 7 days a week, 18 to 20 hours a day. And it sort of got to the point where, I was just flat out trying to get everyone's stuff finished. And then I had a guy ask me to build his Thunderbird, 61 Thunderbird. And I thought, so what's it entail to build it? And he said, I want the whole car built, stripped it right back and rebuilt the whole car. So that was my very first paid job to build a car, other than mine or
And
mates.
you did that just after hours?
Yeah. Just go home from Telford's, race home, work all night, work all weekend. Jules would go and do the horse thing and I'd be working away. And then, it was good because I wasn't into TV.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where, so I did the first one for him, then I did the second one for him, and then I got asked to do another car for another guy, and then another car for another guy. I thought, this is getting out of hand. And so Jules needed more room for horses, I needed more room for cars, and then we bought a block of land out at Shep East and stayed at Telford's until the shed was built. Had a bit of a plan on that one. They knew what was going on. As soon as I put the order in for the shed, they knew.
Yeah.
But they were real good. Telfords were awesome for me. A couple of times I needed to finish things and I'd ran out of holidays. I'd used all my holidays up and they'd just let me take a week or 2 weeks off, no pay, know. And that's a lot of paperwork. When you're a boss and you've got to try and have someone still on the books but not pay them, and it was a pain in the ass. Yeah. I was a serious pain in the ass.
So they looked after you then.
They were brilliant. They really were.
Yeah.
And they knew what was coming. As soon as they knew the shed was getting built, they knew I was going to finish up. Well, not all of them, but a couple worked it out.
So you bought that block, you built the shed, And then what? That was it? I'm on my own now.
Yeah, well, at the time
That's a big decision.
I was halfway through doing a Shelby for Chris Retzos. So I went and seen Chris and said, look, if I leave Telford's, will you pay me enough to work every week on your car? And we worked out a price, so I was basically on a wage, but I was still working for myself. And looking back now, like, he took a huge leap of faith, because this is a guy that he assumes is going to work 40 hours a week on his car and finish the car. But he said, yep, no worries. And then he also had a 55 Chevy that just needed to be put back together and finished. So he gave me those two cars. And that's where it started. Like, Chris just went, yep, no worries. And so I started on his two cars and then his brother-in-law's car. And then I always had a plan of 4 cars on my own, 1 a week. Every month, everyone got a week's worth of work. And then somehow I got the 5th car in. Not sure how that happened.
I know how it happened. Sorry.
And then a guy I was working at Telford's with, he was helping me after hours. And then another mate, he was helping me after hours as well. So I was sort of working pretty good, and then the 6th car showed up. And so one of these guys, I asked if he wanted a full-time job, and he said yes. So he was pretty good. And, and then it went to, 7 cars, 8 cars, 3 guys, 4 guys.
However big the shed, how many they'll fit in the shed will turn up.
Then ring Telford's and extended the shed. So it just grew and grew. It just constantly grown all the time. So that was about 2004. 2003, late 2003 when early 2004 when I started the business. But at the time we were known as Revhead Restorations, because for my 21st birthday, my mates gave me the number plate Revhead.
Yeah.
That stuck.
Yeah. So
for quite a while.
Yeah, it did for a long time. And then so those plates are still on my XAU.
Yeah, okay.
After all these years, so they've always been on a car. They've never not been on a car.
Yeah, okay. What was the reason to change the name?
We sort of went for about 8 years just as Revhead Restorations, and it was good and everything was fine. And then I had a guy who was really, really well known in the industry. He'd built a lot of elite show cars, Howard Astle. And Howard pulled me aside at a show one day. He said, Greg, you need to change your name. And I said, why? Like, it's a great name, And he said, no, you need to change your name. He said, you've gone past that stage now. You're getting into this elite car stuff. You need to change your name. And
I said, more professional. And
yeah. And I said, but what to? And he said, all the Americans use their name. So whatever you do, use your name. So I thought about it for a while, which was probably a year. And because I couldn't bring myself to changing the name to have my name in it.
Yeah.
Because it's a team, like sure I was doing everything at the start, and I was doing all the heavy fabrication, the panel beat and the weld and the all that stuff, the filler work, the paint work, building the engines, putting it all together, outsourcing a few things, but pretty much building the car. Then I had these other guys working for me, and a couple of them were close mates, and I sort of couldn't change the name to my name. So I sat them down at Smoko one day, and I said to them, look, if we change the name and I've got my name in it, is that going to bother you guys? And one of them, Bo, said, look, it's your business. You'll still be here long after we're not. I said, oh, what, you're leaving? He goes, no, not at all. And I seriously didn't want to change it because to me it's a team.
Yeah.
And then we thought about it, and I wrote down a heap of names, and none of them were good. And anyway, this one sort of stuck, Maskell's Customs and Classics. It just sort of, it didn't have a ring about it, and it's hard to say, especially when you're answering the phone 10 times a day. You get sick of saying it. So,
it's got your name in it, though.
Yeah, and that's right. That's what he said. So the whole duration. So he rang me a couple of times, and then I spoke to a couple of people, and they said, "Yeah, it's a great idea. You need to change the name." And me and Jules had a lot of conversations about it. And so after I think the very first conversation was about 2 years before it actually got changed.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it took me that long to
Yeah.
make the decision. Yeah.
Well, if you're getting clients like Chris Retsos and stuff, they their cars that they want to build, it's not so much a rev head. It's a
That's right.
It's a custom and it's a classic sort of thing. So.
Yeah. And the reason for customs and classics is because I like building both.
Yeah.
I don't need to build full custom cars all the time or stock original cars all the time, but I like both.
Yeah.
People say to me, what sort of car do you like? I like everything.
Yeah.
There's not much on the planet I don't like. It's just cars are interesting. You know, and everybody's got their twist on the car, whether it's a dead stock car or a highly modified car. It's kind of their character, you know. And the custom guys. Well, to me, that's their way of making art. Some people can paint, some people can play the guitar, some people can, I don't know, do art. I can't do art, but I can make cars look good.
It's still an art form, really, isn't
It
it?
is, yeah. But my job is to get their
Vision.
Yeah. Yeah, good word, Benny. Yeah.
Do you actually draw the cars out?
Nah, can't draw a stick man.
Really?
Yeah.
I used to love I used to love all the American car shows. Chip Foose.
Yeah.
Remember, Chip used to draw all his cars out.
Yeah.
And
A few do. Yeah, but I've got a couple of people that I can get renderings done from. But again, so I've got to get the picture out of your head into my head, and then I've got to translate that to another person.
Yeah.
And the trick is not to lose what the owner wants.
Yeah.
And the renderings are brilliant because the owner actually gets to see what they want, and then if they don't like it, you can change something.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to get a rendering that is accurate to a car,
Yeah.
what you can do on a car. Usually they're a lot lower, the wheels are wider.
There's a double-edged sword there because A, you can make sure that what they see is what they want, and if they don't, they can change it. But B is the expectation is there that's what it's going to look like when it's finished, but sometimes that's not possible in reality.
No,
because
that's
the
right.
renderings are obviously always a bit overdone.
Yeah, they usually are. And it's really hard, especially a couple of years ago, it was really hard because it was all freehand. Now they've got computers and stuff like that. They seem to be a lot closer, but still not. Yeah. Because somebody might want really wide tyres and low, but you can't turn the car, like in a rendering. But in real life, some wheel arches won't allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So then you got to try and justify that point of view,
How hard is it to get someone's vision and turn it into a reality?
Sometimes really easy, sometimes extremely hard.
I suppose if it's a classic, it's probably a bit easier, but a custom, it would be hard.
The hardest part is the translation.
Yeah.
Right? So someone might say, I want a beige interior, but they really mean tan.
Yeah.
Now, I know that doesn't sound like much, but it can vary, And then they might want a different colour, or they can't understand why that wheel won't work on that car. And you try to explain it to them. So that's where it gets really hard. Like we did a car for a guy, and he wanted old school rims, but it had an LS in it, fuel injection. A lot of stuff was high tech on the car. And not when I say high tech, it wasn't a high tech car, but it had a later model front end, rear end, the whole lot. But the wheels and the color was more of a modern color, but the wheels just wouldn't have worked.
Wouldn't have suited it.
And they were probably $1,500 or $2,000 at the time for the rims, and I'm just going, no, this is not going to work. This is going to look good, but it's not going to work. So then what I did is found the rims that I thought would look really good, and they're sort of a late model, big deep dish, big shiny 20s, fancy wheel, but they kind of looked older. They had that
classic look. The
classic look. So then I rang a guy to do a rendering. I said, draw this up, do it in his colour, put these wheels on it, and then draw another one with his wheels. And then I showed him, And he went, "Oh, I see what you're saying, but the wheels I chose were $9,000
Each.
No, for the set,
for the set.
thankfully." So then you've got to say, "Oh, I know it's a little bit dearer when it's a lot dearer," and you sort of try and soften the blow, but they know, they understand what you're trying to do, and they can see the difference then, because that's why the rendering is so good.
Yeah.
But if you got someone that goes, "Righto, this is what I want," and you go, "Righto, no worries, that's what I can do for you." So my goal, no matter what, is to put a car in their garage that they walk out to in the morning and look at their car that they're going to drive to work, and their cool car. And if it's pouring with rain, they want to drive that cool car.
Yeah.
That's I've achieved then. That's my goal.
Mm.
So I've got to get whatever they want. If I like it or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Whatever
that's right.
they have in their head into reality.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing. But
that would be the challenge. It
is. Yeah. And as far as I know, we've achieved it every time.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of conversations. It all starts out as, "Oh, Greg, can you do this for me?" Yep. And then we go from there, and then conversation after conversation. It can take 3 or 4, can take 20 conversations. And then we do spray outs and throw ideas at them and just try and do all these variables so they know that that's what they're getting, and I know that's what they want.
Yeah. That would be the hard part, isn't getting out of someone's head and you putting it in reality. That would be so hard to do.
Yeah. Like I said, some people are really easy. Some people just go, "Right, this is what I want, and that's what it is." Yeah, right. That's easy. I know what you want. I know how to do it. Like, we had a guy a couple of years back. He rang me up and said, "I want to build a Monaro." I went, "Righto." And then he showed up the next day, just out of the blue, just showed up unannounced. And we had a bit of a chat, probably, I don't know, an hour, and I knew exactly what he wanted. And then he delivered the car. He was only from King Lake or thereabouts. He delivered the car, and so he wanted the only thing, he didn't really know exactly what he wanted. He knew the colour, he knew the trim, he knew the motor, everything. It was just the wheels. He knew what he wanted in a way, but couldn't explain it. So we went to Dragway with him and had a look, because that was only around the corner from him. Had a look, picked a rim, perfect. And then he passed away probably 3 or 4 months later, but I knew exactly what he wanted. So when the car's finished, and we're still finishing the car for the family, he's got exactly, or they've got exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he was really good. Like, he sort of knew what he wanted straight up, and I threw a few variables at him, and we talked our way through it, and yeah, bingo. Yeah.
Mm. What part of the business do you excel in? Have you got anything?
Making coffee.
Are you a better panel beater, painter, trimmer?
Probably not a trimmer. I'm probably painter is probably the best. The thing I can do the best. I sort of like to do all of it, and I kind of get bored if I was doing something. But for the last couple of years, my job is basically managing the business.
Yeah,
it's grown that big.
That was my next question. Do you actually get on the tools very much now? Or?
Nowhere near like I should, or I want to. Like, I hate that office, like, with a passion. I don't want to.
Phone calls, emails.
Fortunately, that office makes you the money, though.
That's right.
That's
Yeah. And with, especially since COVID, but before that it's really hard to find parts. So you spend a lot of time, like serious hours upon hours, looking for stuff that should exist but doesn't. And in true form, and we're all the same, there's always something better. So you're looking for something and you go, "Oh, there might be something better than that." And then you'll waste hours looking for it. Not waste hours, but throw a bunch of hours in.
That's what keeps you on top of the game too, though, in what you do.
Yeah.
You have to, otherwise you fall behind.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like, there's a lot of things that evolve fast in this industry, but there's a lot of things that don't. So, but I was always good at painting. Just going to seem to come natural to me. So, and I just don't. Since I've put painters on, I always believe that they shouldn't do the hard work or all the sanding, and then I just walk into the booth.
Yeah.
You got to you got to do the hard yards to earn it. But the last couple that I've painted, I've just walked into the booth.
You got to do
Boss's
this, but I'm
privilege.
going to do whatever I want.
Well, and the actual fact of it all, the last car that I painted was the panel van for Luke's panel van for his mum and dad. They asked me to do it. We sort of had a conversation. I don't know whether they asked or I asked them if I could do it for them, or I can't remember, but it was basically, they wanted me to do it. So I painted that. The one before that, one of the painters, I think he was trying to take the piss, or he was trying to have a bit of a lend of me, said, because it's a hard colour to paint, it was a bright metallic silver. And he goes, Greg, do you want to paint this one? And I went, yeah, all right. And he went, oh, yeah. And I said, no, you get it prepped, I'll put it in the booth and I'll paint it. And the other painter sort of went, but you said you weren't going to do that. Oh, he offered.
Yeah.
And you don't offer it. And if you
Can't take it back.
Yeah, you can't, too late.
That's pretty funny.
So I took it and I painted it.
Oh, that's classic. I love it.
You just mentioned that you spend hours upon hours in the office trying to get parts and all that stuff. How do you charge the customers that? Do you charge them to do that, or
You don't.
is it all part of the build? Or
It's part of the build. So I don't charge my hours unless I'm physically working on a car.
yeah,
Other than that, they get it for free.
yeah,
So all the hours of, so for example, you come in and you want to build a car. So I might sit down for hours or days chasing stuff to give them the information that that's available, or we can do it that way. So that doesn't get charged. And then if I'm looking for parts, it doesn't matter if it's in Shepparton or in England,
yeah,
that's all free. So no one gets charged for any of my time looking for stuff. Because at the same time, I might be looking for something, right? Who'd know what, a rubber kit or, something.
yeah,
But I'm also running the business, talking to the guys, making sure everything's getting done. And I'm not just looking for one part. I can be looking for 10 parts at the same time,
yeah.
Which you sort of start looking for something and you go, oh, look at that.
And
then
I've got this other car. Well,
Yeah.
Look at that
And all of a sudden, so you can't charge, or I can't put that into an hourly rate, So unless I'm actually physically working on the car, but all the guys that work for me, their hours are billed out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So do you quote a car up from scratch?
never.
Never. You just give estimates?
Yeah, we can give estimates. I normally ask what their budget is, because, and then some people will try and play a game. They'll go, I'll tell him X amount because I really want to spend more, but if I tell him too much, he'll just spend a lot. So, but I'm not like that. You tell me what you want to spend, and I'll tell you whether you can do it or not. Because somebody might go, right, I've got $50,000 to spend, and I want an LS, V8, automatic, diff, rear suspension, front suspension, trim, painted, bodywork, blah, 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 engineered. Ain't going to happen. Not a hope. It just can't happen. So paint materials now, including sandpaper, mask and tape, blah, 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 about $7,000 to paint a car. Right?
That's just materials.
Just materials. That's no labour. That's no freight. That's just materials. That's just to get it to put the paint on the car.
Yeah.
Right. That's not including an acid dip. An acid dip's about another $7,000. Right. So you got $14,000 before we start. Before the hours of rust and panel beating and bodywork and paint happen. So when people give you a budget, it kind of gives you a bit of an idea. And then somebody might give you, say, a budget of $80,000 and they want enough work done, and you probably use up that 80. You go, righto, I can do all of that, but I can't throw a set of brakes at it. You'll just have to go without the brakes, because they're only $2,000. But by the time you got them on, it's $5,000. And they go, oh, righto. And then, but it could take 2 years to get to that point. And then by that stage, they've saved a bit more. So it sort of allows them to evolve as we evolve. But then sometimes it just all comes under the budget. I always try and get things under the budget, but when they change their mind halfway through, it doesn't happen.
What's a standard build time? Because as I said before, I've watched plenty of Foos, and they do it in an hour from start to finish.
They actually do it in less if you take the ads out.
That's true. So if I bought me 71 Benz into you, could you do it within 45 minutes?
If you want to cut and polish, probably. If you're lucky.
Kick the tyres for
So
that.
what is a standard build like? Say and again it would depend on what needs,
So the quickest we've ever done a ground up full restoration is Luke's panel van. We had 9 months and we did it in 9 months. Right, that was astounding time. Right, like that's the quickest I've ever built a car like that with that much work. Right, and the team all put in and they all had a crack, and and because of the team that we've got, that's how that happened. Right, but when we pulled the car apart, we were sending stuff out left, right, and centre as quick as we could to give the chrome shop time, to give the engine machinist guy time, to give everybody time. So when it all was finished, it all went back together pretty quick. The longest car I've ever done, I still have, and it's been there for 17 years or 18 years.
What? I'd be pretty pissed if that was my car.
I don't think it's the owner's. I don't think it's Greg's fault though. I think it might be the owner.
Yeah. So
they just haven't got the money to do it, or they just
they change their mind. They go away on holidays. They disappear for a year or two. Not to jail, just go somewhere. I don't know, somewhere else. Might have went to jail. I don't know where he went.
and it just sits there.
Well, it gets put into storage, and he pays the storage.
Yeah.
So but that's rare. Like so they usually take on a full build. So you're talking everything, somewhere between 2 years to 5 years. Depending on the car, depending on the parts. Like we just did an EH, and it was only a small block Chev, rod deck front end, auto, a diff upgrade, brake upgrade. We didn't do bodywork. We didn't do paint. We painted the engine bay. We wired a bit, fixed a bit of rust in the floor inside the car. Didn't trim it, and that was 3 years. But COVID got there, and then because of COVID, we went from 12-week wait on rims to 27-week wait, and so there's only so much you can do without the rims. And I know it sounds sort of silly, but there's a hold up, and then so you get these hold ups and it just stops everything, like real fast. So put that one in the corner, grab another one and work on that. So it's not the owner's fault, it's not my fault, it's not parts' fault, it's just a combination of everything. Yeah, it just happens.
You've mentioned a couple of times, I'm probably going to deviate a little bit here. You've mentioned a couple of times Luke's panel van.
Yep.
Tell us the story. I did watch the story the other day, but you tell us the story so all the listeners can.
Yeah. It was so this is I think it was the 13th of January, not the last one, gone, the one before. So I get a phone call just out of the blue. Hi Greg.
21 or 20?
20 I think it was.
So just
21.
Before in COVID.
Yeah, in COVID.
In COVID.
Yeah. So get a phone call. I answer the phone, Greg here, and he goes, "Hi Greg, it's John. I've got a panel van I'd like you to restore for me." And I went, "Oh, righto. Can you tell me a bit about it?" And he said, "I was sitting in the shed, hasn't been used for a while, front end's half out of it." I said, "Oh, righto." I said, "Look, what do you want done? Because we're really busy. We're booked out for a couple of years. So I got no hope of building a car, but if you tell me what you want done, so if you need the motor built, I can squeeze that in, or the brakes fixed, I can squeeze that in.
Yeah.
But if it's rust, it's going to be a little bit hard because the guys are busy. So if it's rust and paint, so tell me what you want done, and I'll see if I can squeeze it in somewhere." And he said, "Oh, we need it all done. We need the motor done and the brakes, and can you do it sort of in stages, or has it got to be done in one go?" I said, "Well, if you're doing the whole car, it's better to do it in one go, but we're pretty busy, mate." And he goes, "Oh, yeah." I said, "But just So maybe if you send me some photos or what you want done, how do you want it, do you want it modified, do you want it standard? No, I want to leave it standard like a Sandman. He said, I had one, this is my son's. I said, oh, right. So are you doing it or your son doing it? He goes, no, my son's not doing it, I'm doing it. I said, oh, righto. I said, tell me what you want to do with the car, because if I got a picture of what you're going to do with the car, and he said, what do you mean? And I said, so are you going to drive it every day? Are you going to take it to shows? Are you going to have an elite show car? Like, tell me what you want to do. Are you going to drag race it? Or just tell me what you want to do. And he said, I'm going to put it in the shed, I'm going to sit in it, I'm going to cry. So I've gone, oh, something's going on here. He's doing it for the son, but his son's not doing it, and he's going to sit in there and cry. So I'm thinking, so I'm trying to do the maths quick in my head, not to be, quiet. But I knew there was something awkward here, and I said, oh, righto, I probably need a little bit more information on this. And he said, oh, my son passed away. He's done a one-tonner, and he was starting the pedal van. He's got the front end out of it, but that's as far as he got. I went, righto. I said, can you come and visit us? Where are you from? He said, Crookwell. I said, where's Crookwell?
Where is Crookwell?
Is that in Australia?
Yeah. So New South Wales, near Goulburn.
Okay.
About an hour from Goulburn. And Canberra sort of thing up there. And I was like, can you come and visit us? He said, yeah, I can be there Monday. I said, righto, come on Monday and we'll have a talk. So I'm sort of thinking, oh, I know I'm going to say yes to this, but I've got a small problem in the whole thing. So this is January. At Christmas, I said to the guys at a Christmas breakup, because I was notoriously bad for going somewhere, taking a car to somewhere and bringing another car back. So we were gaining more than we were getting rid of.
Needs to be on Netflix.
So like it got to the point where it was just out of control, and it still isn't. And I said to the boys at our work breakup, I promise you next year, no surprises, no new cars, it won't happen. And they're going, yeah, sure. And I'm going, no, give you my word, it won't happen. We're not taking on any more projects until we finish a lot. And because the museum's full of my cars, mate's sheds are full of my or customers' cars. My shed's full of customers' cars. They're everywhere. And so Luke, so John and Glenda show up, Luke's mum and dad, and say good day, meet them and have a chat. And just straight away, soul to the earth people. I'm going, these are good people. I'm thinking, I want to say yes to this. Showed them around the workshop, introduced them to everybody, and these are just the best people, right? Yeah. Like sheep farmers, just they're into the footy, whatever they call it up there, rugby or whatever they call it. These two are not car people, right? Luke was the car person, and Lockie, the older brother, not really into the cars either. So I've sat him down, and we've had a bit of a chat. And I said to him, look, I can't say yes or no at the moment because I've got to talk to the guys. I've got to put it back to them. So they left. The next day, we're sitting there at Smoko. I said, righto, guys, everybody's seen John and Glenda walking around. And they're going, yeah. And I said, right, so this is the deal. If you guys say no to this job, it's not going to happen, but you need to listen to me first. And I said, so just go back one step. The day when they were there, I didn't know when Lockie or how Lockie had passed away. Luke.
Yeah.
So they told me about it. So he'd been at, he just got his apprenticeship. He was about 7 days into his apprenticeship. He'd gone to work on the Saturday morning as an auto elect. Left there at about 12 o'clock. Went to Bunnings, worked until about 9 o'clock that night. Picked up his girlfriend, drove home 35 k's out to the farm, stayed overnight, got up in the morning, drove the girlfriend back into town, and he was on the way home, fell asleep, went through a fence, hit some farm machinery, gone. So that's on the 20th of December. So when Glenda told me that, I've gone, that's 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
Like
Jesus.
from when we were sitting there and they were in front of me, I'm going, oh, this is a whole different ballgame. Because I was thinking months or years ago, not weeks ago.
It's pretty raw still.
Oh, mate, it was huge. So back to the smoko table, said, right, guys, I need to tell you something. So I've told them the story, and straight away they all went, we're doing it. We'll make it happen. And I said, but we've got to have it done before the anniversary of his passing or his birthday. When's his birthday? It was, I think, the something or other of November. I can't remember the date. We're going, whew, the maths on this is not good.
Especially when a car's been there for 17 years.
Yeah.
How the hell are we going to make this one work?
So anyway, so they all said yes. I rang John and said, we're on. We're good to go. When do you want me to come and get the car? He said, I'll bring it to you. So a week or 2 weeks later, he had it to us. We pulled it apart, took it over to the acid dippers. They dipped it. And then I think it was 6 months from that date when we got it back from the acid dippers to when we handed it over to John and Glenda. And they just went to, last weekend, they went to the All Holden Nationals and won Best Panel Van.
Wow.
So, yeah.
They would have been pretty stoked for
Yeah,
that.
they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
So that's an original Sandman, or?
Nah, it's a factory V8 4-speed car, but it wasn't a Sandman, or as far as we know it wasn't. But yeah, so we've done it up like a Sandman. And the only variable on the Sandman, when John was a young bloke, back in the, I don't know, 70s, he had on a sticker on the back, if she's a rockin', don't come a knocking. So I got one of those stickers and put it on the back window.
That's awesome. So if I remember rightly, once this build started, you started posting a few things on the socials and whatnot about what was going on. And I think a bunch of people that you deal with on a daily basis got on board and started helping out, didn't they?
It was totally amazing, right? So I posted on social media what an honour it is, you know, to be asked to do this car, especially at the time frame.
Yep.
You know, because to me it's a huge honour to be asked to do something like that for them. Because you've got a lot of responsibility at this point, you know.
Yep.
So I posted that on it. The next day, Adrian from KBS texted me a message. Any product you need, mate, free of charge. So I rang him and said, what for? What's this all about? And he goes, my twins are about to get their licence. That guy's living my worst nightmare.
Yep.
And they're going, right, wow, that's big. I've never put it in that context, you know. So anyway, so put an order in for some paint, and it lands a couple of days later. So take a photo, put it on social media. Thanks, Adrian.
Yeah.
You know, blah, blah, blah. Then someone else rings, PPG, and then there was just so many more,
Like
you know,
rubber
like
products.
Just, you know, like Resto Country rang.
Yep.
Anything you want, 50% throughout the whole range. Like,
Yep.
oh, right. You know, so, and then I dropped the chrome off and then sent some other stuff out somewhere else. I went and picked the chrome up, and on the invoice, I just folded the invoice, put it in my pocket, got to the servo, because the chrome shop was in Sunshine and the other chrome shop's in Bendigo. Got to the servo and, I better have a look at that invoice. Pull it out. Oh, yeah, right. That's about right. Yeah, down the bottom, NC. What's NC? What the freaking hell's NC stand for? So I ring Mick. On this invoice, you got NC. What's NC stand for? No charge. How come? And he goes, last week, my young bloke went through a giveaway sign and got hit. Wrote the car off. Could have been dead.
Yep.
I said, you're joking. I said, how do you even know about the panel van? He's not on social media. And he goes, heard about it. Went, serious? And he goes, yeah, no charge. So, mate. And he goes, no charge. And John and Glenda never asked for this at all.
No.
So every time someone would ring or text and we had, so XBOSS, best known car in Australia, they had one sponsor. One. It was the seatbelts. This, in the end, we'd had, I kept a list of everybody. I think there was 32, and I think we ended up with 28 because there's a couple we'd already had someone cover in that area.
Yep.
Or...
Yeah, you couldn't add more to it.
Yeah, you know, like one one guy offered his services to come and he couldn't do anything on the car, but he could cook a barbecue. And he said, I'll come on a weekend and we'll cook a barbecue. You know, like that's
unreal.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like totally amazing.
Yeah.
I had people ringing me that I'd never met in my life, even heard of. And they've just gone, hey, I'll hear about Luke's panel van. Is there anything I can do to help? And I'm going, but why? And everybody had
A story.
a story.
Of some description.
Yeah, like 3M, biggest company in Australia. That guy's sister died when he was so he's in his 60s. She died when she was 18, hit by her car accident. You know, like I'm on. Freaking hell, this is touching a lot of people.
It is.
It was huge,
Yeah.
absolutely huge.
When
Yeah.
you think of it, look, I mean, it's a sad story.
Yeah,
He's pretty unlucky. Like, how many kids would do what he has done
yeah,
and just, holy shit, and wake up and away they go? Like,
we've all done it.
yeah.
You know,
It's pretty
had that
unlucky.
Micro nap, and this is a kid that school captain. You know, played the rugby team. All his mates. He was friends with his mates and his mates' parents. You know, like just he was one of those guys that just everybody liked.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, but it was a sad story, but in the end, for us, it was exceptionally good. You know,
So there's a photo on the big screen just of his. That's how it originally came to you,
yeah. That's
Green,
pretty
Kermit.
much the day it got there.
Kermit Green.
Yep.
How was the vision? Like, did Luke already have a vision for it?
Yeah, totally. It was really cool. So I said to John, look, I need to know what Luke wanted out of it. And when they bought the panel van, he actually bought 2 printed pictures of a blue panel van that Luke had in his bedroom.
Yeah.
I've still got them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, and I've gone, right. Gee, that made life easy.
Yeah.
You know, no questions asked. I just knew exactly what we had to do.
Yeah.
So it was so easy. And there was no variable on it
Yeah.
because
Yep.
it was straightforward.
So this car, obviously one of the quickest one you've ever built.
Mm.
Well, it's not because you built a couple of them back in the day.
Yeah, but for
this
a
is
customer.
For a
Yeah.
customer. How did
While we're building other cars, mind
yeah,
you.
that's what I was just
Like-
about to ask. How did the guys go? Are we doing extra overtime here, or we just
Yeah.
we're building normal cars, but obviously you send stuff away for these builds, so you got to wait. So then you work on other cars and
Yeah.
stuff. But like all the priority was on this car.
Oh, not all of the priority, but a lot of it was. And everybody in the workshop knew that, and all the customers knew that. I'd rang a few customers and said, look, this is what's happening, you know, and they're going to go for it. You know, like they fully got it.
Yeah.
You know, like I was so lucky with all the customers. Nobody got upset. Nobody went, oh, how come he gets special treatment?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever rang and said, oh, you know, you did that
Yeah.
a lot cheaper than it should have. Can I get mine like that? Nobody's done that.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's just gone, right, this is a sad story for a young bloke. But, yeah, all the guys, I just said to them, look, you know, like if we've got extra work, can you stay back? They're going, yep, no worries. And they did. They just performed, you know, like outstandingly. You know, like so in all of this, right, so in my wisdom somehow, I come up with this, let's get a GoPro, put it up on the wall, you know, so as we can see what's going on. And I didn't think much of it. And then, so we go and buy a GoPro and chuck it in there. But didn't think to ask the guys if they're okay. Been filmed all day long. Too late now. It's already in there, set up. So, but they were good. They just performed so well, and they just worked together, and they all had that goal. They all knew what to do.
Well, the thing is, with a place like your workshop, the people you've got working there are car guys. They're not just changing all
And girls.
And girls, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, Jazz. They're not just turning up to change all the filter and go home. So the same feeling that you got, it's the same feeling they got straight away.
Yeah. And honestly, they got to know John and Glenda as good as I did, you know, and
well, it turned into a much bigger thing. It turned into a small little bit of a TV / internet series, and there was a whole unveiling and everything, wasn't there?
Yeah. So in my head, these people are donating parts or product. So we've got to do the right thing by them.
Yeah.
So we need to give them exposure.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is what created that whole snowball effect. And at one stage, it became a whole management system of just Luke's panel van. Right? Like sort of trying to juggle everything else, but Luke's panel van was my world. And so in my head, I need someone that can kind of help me here. You know, I don't know how to social media very well, and I don't know how to do any of that production stuff like that. I think, Whiskers, he used to be on TV all the time. He'll know how to do this. I barely know Whiskers at all. So I ring Whiskers, hey, look, you know, like I need to put people's logo on social media or something. He goes, I don't know how to do that, Greg. I said, oh, right, really? What am I going to do? And he goes, what do you want to do? And I told him the story. He goes, I'm in. But you don't know what to do. And he goes, yeah, but I'm in. We'll work it out. But he said, but we need to video it. I said, righto, what do we do? And he goes, we'll get Parsos, but we'll have to pay him. I said, that's cool. I'll find some money. It'll come out of my pocket or something. We'll work out something. And I said, do you need money as well? He said, no, I'm in. Next day, he rings back and he goes, Parsos is in. So how much is it going to cost? No, he's going to do it for free. I said, yeah, but this is the whole problem I've got.
Yeah.
Is everybody's doing it for free, and now I've got you two to look after as well.
Yeah.
And anyway, so they come and start doing some stuff. I said, right, I need your official logo. Like Whistles has got the Shed Show and Nige has got his stuff.
Yep.
I said, I need you, but why? No, we don't want that. I said, yeah, but that's the same as the other 20, you know, so, or 25 at the time or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I said, so I need you to give me your proper logo so as I can put it on the board. And then Michelle Signs did a massive board and that's what I mean. It just snowballed. Everything snowballed. And then, so I ring Michelle Signs up. Hey, I need a board to put in front of the camera when we're taking photos and stuff like that. Oh, yeah, no worries. And then it shows up. Where's the bill? Ring them up. Where's the bill? No, free charge. Fuck. I need your logo. What do you need the logo for? I need a sticker because I've got to put it on the board now.
That's pretty funny.
And this is the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it was just brilliant. Everybody just chipped in. Everybody helped out, you know. I hope everyone got good social media or social covering. And even Street Machine magazine did an article, you know, like Simon rang up and said, hey, Greg, you know, we'll do something.
Well, at the end of the day, it did exactly what you said, though, because that's where I seen all of it and knew that you had that happen and who was involved and everything. And so the job that you did to keep on top of that worked.
Yeah. And look, it became a huge job and it was a whole experience for me. Trust me, like I never plan on going down that road, managing a whole production.
Yeah.
And then we did the big unveiling at the museum. The museum put on a night for us.
It was pretty big too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah, we had a lot of people there.
It was food and a band and everything, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, Ollie, the guy from Bendigo Croman, him and his mate Gordo play a bit of music. So this is when there's like 6 or 7 people sponsoring us.
Yeah.
And I said to Ollie, hey, look, when we hand over the panel van, can you and Gordo come over, play a few tunes, you know, we'll have a barbecue. It'll be a good night. He goes, yeah, no worries. So the closer it's got, the bigger it's got, you know, and then we need the whole museum because we're going to do it at my shed first, and then we don't need the whole museum. And then, so they're playing music and there's beers and everyone's having a great night, and all Luke's mates come down, and they were all there. You know, there's a couple of carloads of young blokes there.
Yep.
You know, which was even cooler. You know, so I still see a bit of stuff on their social media, and they see mine and stuff like that. You know, so it's sort of it ended up being a huge night. We did the handover. Not everybody could make it, but a lot of people were there.
Yep.
And it was just a really good night. It was absolutely an awesome night. Yeah.
It's an exceptional build too. It looks unreal. So those who that can't see the big screen, jump on to Maskell's Customs and Classics and have a look at the brag board and go to Luke's PV. It's a pretty cool looking thing. So you remember, Greg, too, though, that all these companies that gave you stuff for nothing, they didn't want to be recognised.
No, they didn't.
Just wanted to do that. Do it out of their goodness of their hearts.
And that thing. But that was the thing. It wasn't. They asked for something in return. Nobody, and I mean nobody, asked for anything in return. In actual fact, it was hard to get their logo to give them something back. You know, like that's what I mean. Like, so XBOSS had one sponsor, and out of that whole car, and this has got that many that we were struggling to hand something back to them. You know, so it was really good. And and times are tough. Like this is COVID.
Yeah, that's right,
You know, like the whole thing, and there was guys there that are just working on their own, and they're doing that for free.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going, no, that's not right. You can't do that. You know, and so Linda Vesperman, she drew the panel van for. We were going to do some t-shirts, but she drew the panel van, and at the time she was sort of struggling a bit. You know, so we sort of had this argument about she wanted to do it for free, and I'm going, no, I'll pay you to do it, and she goes, no, I'm okay to do it for free. I just want to do it, and you'll be happy. So we ended up with this argument. Then I said to her, look, tell me what you pay in your rent for a fortnight, and I'll pay you that. And then, so that was the deal. So I paid her what she needed for the rent, you know. But it was an argument. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I'm arguing that I need to give her money, and she's arguing because she wants to give it to me for free. In my world, it's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
You're trying to get something out of them for nothing, and you never do. You know.
It just goes to show that there's still some good people around.
And it made, and that was the thing. We had a good time doing it, but we made a lot of new friends, and there was so many good people out there willing to help us and do stuff. It was just brilliant.
And Luke's mum and dad obviously stoked about it.
Oh yeah, a
Over the
lot
moon.
of tears.
Yeah.
We've all had tears. Like it's been, you know, like I remember on the night, they did a talk, and I had a guy say to me, "Concrete, you need to get up there and talk." I'm going, "This is not about me. This is about them and what they do and their family and their friends and us. You know, all here together." And then something happened, and we're all in tears again, and it's like, Jesus. Supposed to be big tough blokes here.
Yeah.
Big car blokes in tears.
That's classic.
Well,
That was great.
I think it was an unbelievable thing to do. So
It was. Yeah. We had a ball doing it. We really did. And we still keep in touch.
Yeah.
You know, John sends me messages regularly.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah.
Pretty cool. All right, before we go into any further detail, we're season 2 of Two Blokes from Down Under is brought to us by Ken Muston Automotive. For all your motoring needs, pop down and see the team for Isuzu Ute, Ram Trucks, MG, Jeep, Subaru, and Mercedes-Benz. That's Ken Muston Automotive, 215 Benalla Road, Shepparton. And this episode is brought to us by Extons of Benalla. Proudly family owned and operated since 1952, Extons are your one-stop shop for all your earthworks, bulk haulage and equipment sales. You can find them at 85 Gilly Street, Benalla, or jump onto their website at extons.com.au.
Yeah, very good. Well,
there's a little magazine called Street Machine. Now, I know this because Ben brags to me all the time that he's been in Street Machine.
hey, they just reposted something.
They did.
Anyway,
Did
no,
they?
moving on. Yeah, they do it all the time. I reckon it's just because it's a weird car. But anyway.
Ben brings it up to me all the time. Takes snapshots and sends
Is it the
through.
same
I
picture you
don't.
see?
I don't.
Is it always the same picture you
Yeah.
see? So you're sure it's new?
Yeah, I know. I saw the book and stuff. And then
Come on.
Well, before we go any further, Ben, what car have you got?
No, it's not about
No,
me.
just
Yeah, yeah,
tell
come
me
on.
what it is.
Come on.
I have an old...
Well, this is how we met.
Yeah, well, I've got an old 62 XK Falcon sedan.
What colour is it?
Plum.
Yeah, let's say... fuck it, it's pink.
What was your thoughts
I
behind pink?
caught plenty of shit, don't worry.
What was your thoughts behind
I've
pink?
heard everything under the sun, but
What
yeah,
colour interior?
it's black now.
Oh, is it? It was white, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was off-white, yeah. Anyway,
Gold.
the first car show I took it to, that was a bit of a nervous moment. And then I reckon it was the first 10 minutes, a bunch of bikies come along because it was a bike show as well. And I'm like, oh, fuck this. So I moved away. So it's not my car anymore. And they come along and they looked all over it and looked under it. And then they turned to each other, loved the colour, and walked off. And I'm like, that's it.
Hey, that's mine.
From that day onwards, I actually didn't give a shit what anyone said because I thought, well, you know what? It's a love it or hate it. So
It's a pretty cool rig, man.
It is.
It's a
Yeah.
cool rig.
Well, that's sort of how Benny and I met.
yeah, I was 16, I reckon, still riding my push bike around town.
Yeah.
Just started my apprenticeship and I was going to build a car and this and that and come around to this shed one day because someone said if you go down this street, there's a shed down there and you'll find, it was Timmy.
Yep.
Newberg.
Timmy
wasn't it?
Newberg. Yep.
He'll be able to find this bonnet for this car because I had an XBGT that I was trying to do back then. And anyway, so I roll up there on my push bike, and here's Greg and about 4 or 5 other guys at this shed, and I'm like, oh my God. And they're all sitting there. They look like bikies then too. And
Back when we had hair and we could grow a mullet.
They had all that shit going on, and you all probably had. Did you have bikes then? No, you hadn't got onto a Harley yet, but you look like you should have had one.
Yeah.
And they're all big blokes. They're all... Anyway, and I've just about done it.
Well, the truth of that story is most of us were going to the gym at the time. So we're all...
Yeah, they were like massive. And I'm like, I nearly did a U-turn in the car park on my push bike and went, no, I'm out. And so I'm like this skinny little kid that turned up all nervous, and I'm like, oh, I'm just looking for a such and such. And turned out to be a really good bunch of blokes and whatnot. Found what I needed, and it was, it would have been 5 years or more, even longer later.
Longer.
Yeah, it could have been nearly 10 for all I remember. And I needed help again and rolled up at Greg's shed, and I think I was there every week for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Talking shit, hanging around, having smoko.
Annoying them.
Doing what car blokes do. Talk shit.
That was pretty much it, yeah. And then, so that's where it all sort of happened. Anyway,
Very good.
moving on from me now. I want to know, we'll go back to the street machine thing in a sec.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off there.
Fair enough.
It'll lead into that, so it's all good. What was the first elite build that you did through the shop?
Gary Mize's... Well, it sort of wasn't through the shop, but it sort of was. Gary Mize's Mustang Silver Bullet.
Yep.
So I didn't build it, or... technically, I didn't actually paint it at the start. So I went and visited Gaz one day, and I was looking at the car. I didn't really know Gaz real well. I was looking at the car and sort of going, at this level, it should be a lot better than that. And I said to Gaz, like this needs to be that and that and that.
Yep.
And then we took it. It was so Gaz is from Narrandera, and it was painted in Wagga, and it was going back there to be flow coated and stuff anyway. So I sort of repainted it and cleared it, and then flat rubbed and buffed it, and then helped put it back together. And I was driving backwards and forwards. So I just started my business. I was still working on my own. So I was driving to Narrandera on a Friday afternoon. So I still needed to do for Chris Retsos 40 hours a week.
Work, yeah.
And then I'd jump in the car, drive to Narrandera, and help Gaz get to Narrandera around 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
Work on the car until 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and then a couple of hours sleep, and then work all day Saturday into sort of late Saturday or Sunday mornings, all day Sunday until late Sunday night, then drive home, a couple of hours sleep, and my work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's mental.
Yeah, so that was the first elite car I was a part of. But the very first one that we built was Psycho, the XF Falcon for Shane and Lisa Chinook.
Yep, and that was from scratch.
Pretty much, yeah. It was, again, we were mates before that car come around. It was pink.
It was a regular sedan then.
It was a 4-door sedan, and it was top 20.
Yeah, because they're from Tassie, yeah?
Yep, Hobart. Got to know them, great friends.
Yep.
You know, they're the best people.
Yep.
You know, they're really cool. And there it is there on the screen.
Yep.
And and then Shane and I and Lisa, we all just hit it off. It was just brilliant. And anyway, so they wanted to redo it, and we sort of threw a few ideas at each other. And there was a guy over at Tassie that could do most of the work, because at the time I'd started my business, and Tassie's a long way away.
Yeah.
And
Can't ride your bike over there, mate.
No, can't even swim that far.
So you're talking the fab work to start with?
Yeah. So one of the guy started building the chassis and stuff, and then it went AWOL, and then they got it to another guy who sort of done a bit more work, and he was dragging the chain, and so Bo and I went over to Tassie a couple of times and worked on it over there and tried to hurry the thing along a little bit and keep it moving. But there was no the guy that was working on it wasn't really getting where it should have been, and didn't really understand what they were trying to do, and thought he did, but didn't really get it.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so we went over and picked it up and brought it back. And so it was basically a rolling shell They'd done the roof chop
Yep.
and a little bit of the chassis and suspension,
Yep.
and a bit of the engine bay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, so we had to do all the floor, the boot, the fuel tank,
Yep.
the exhaust. Oh, no, the exhaust was done over there, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So just so our listeners know, this is an 86 Ford XD?
F.
XF.
Yep.
XF. And it started as a sedan.
Yeah, 4-door sedan.
And now it's
That car was a top 20 Summernats contender before they chopped it up. And the only thing that's left of that original car is the panel behind the taillights and part of the quarter panels.
And it's now shaved 2-door.
Suicide
Yep.
doors, roof chop. It's probably the most custom car that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
There's nothing on that car. Everyone says, oh, yeah, every nut and bolt's been tampered with on my car. That thing there
Yeah.
is pretty much a whole new car.
Yeah.
The roof's not even off that car.
Yeah.
So that roof's lowered
Yeah,
by how much?
a lot. Can't remember. A lot. It's a lot. Trust me. Like
Yeah.
it's with most people talk an inch or two.
Yeah.
That's probably a foot.
So no door
12
handles.
inches.
So when you say shave, Ben,
Yeah,
that's what
sorry,
you mean.
yep.
So no door handles at all.
The door's
Suicide
open
so we're coming this way,
From the front. Yeah.
front to back.
The bonnet opens from the windscreen up,
So folds forwards.
folds forwards.
Yep. The
That-
boot goes sideways or something, doesn't it, on that or not?
Nah,
No,
it
it's a different
goes
car.
normal.
Yep.
Because we wanted it so as the bonnet and boot were the same angle. And they're all electric.
yep.
That's the first car. So that car there, how this started. So that car there, we needed the windows, the door windows, to drop a fraction before the doors opened.
Yep.
And when you shut it, they pop back up. Now, that's normal on a lot of cars now.
Yeah.
Right, so you got to remember, this is, when we're building this is 2008.
Yeah.
All right, debuted about 2010. Might have been a few years earlier or a few years later, but it was about then. You know, it definitely wasn't later. So, again, in my wisdom, I tend to have these brilliant ideas that bite me in the ass. So that car there, I got a mate who's an amazing auto elect, Ant Kazoo, just brilliant. And another mate who's a genius with automation, you know, making things move electronically or with compressed air and stuff like that. So I said to Lomi, I need to open the doors and the windows. Got to, oh, yeah, we can do that, you know. And then, oh, well, what about if we make the boot and bonnet electric? Yeah, we can do that. Oh, right. So how do we do this? Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought, well, hang on. What about if we put a touch screen in there somehow? You know, like in industrial machines, you push a button and it makes something happen. Can we do that? Yeah, we could do that. So thankfully, Shane and Lisa have a lot of faith in people, me. So Shane, what about this for an idea? Oh, that's brilliant. Can we do it? Don't know. But we can have a go. What happens if it doesn't work? We're screwed. Oh, righto. So this is how this conversation goes in abbreviated. So talk to Lomi. So he buys a touchscreen off an industrial machine that's 24 volt, and we need it 12 volt. Right? So this is where Ant comes in.
Yeah.
So we need 2 batteries to run part of this computery thing, and I can't remember how many, but if you look under the dash, there's switches and things, electric stuff. I don't know the terminology, but there's so much electrical stuff underneath that car. It's insane. So on that car, we had it so as the doors were opening and shutting, push of a button, electric button. We changed that because we figured if someone had their foot in the door and it's shut, that'd be a bad thing. The bonnet and boot open, windows start by push of the button. Right, so this is before any of this is in a car, right? All the airbags are controlled by the button, all in the touch screen. So everything electric except for the brake light switch and indicator and horn are all from this touch screen, right? So this is what Tesla have done 15 years later. We've done it, you know, earlier.
Yeah.
And the thing's just amazing. And then the people that supplied, I can't remember their name, that supplied the computer and stuff to us, like we paid for it full price. They actually took us down to their software convention and all this from all over the globe, their annual one, their massive one, and we were on centre stage. And one of the guys down there, who's just another freak, goes, "Can I get under the dash?" I said, yeah, no worries. So I move a few bits for him, can't take a panel out, and he looks under it and he goes, "Can I turn?" Because what we wanted to do was plug a wire to the exact same touch screen on a pedestal. And he goes, "Can I get under there and change a bit of stuff and make it wireless?" And I went, "Don't know how. Go for it if you want to." So this is at the show. So he's under the dash for about half an hour. He puts this box in there, about the size of a cigarette box, puts it under there and gets out. And he's got this massive smile on his face. And he stands there at the pedestal and he pushes the button and the bonnet opened. And he just starts shaking his head and goes, "Yeah, that's going to work." I said, "What have you done?" And he goes, "I made it wireless. It's got a 30-kilometre radius."
Oh, wow.
I'm going, "What? 30 kilometres? Like that's a long way."
That's a long one.
Yeah.
So if I start the car, I don't have to be looking at it. He goes, "Nah, not at all." He said, "You can be 30 kilometres away."
What, and the bonnet just opens on you?
The bonnet, he can push a button and open the bonnet, or start the car, or lift the car up. Can't pull it into gear because that's a physical thing.
Yeah.
We could have done that if we had known earlier. So this is a bit of an excited moment. And then I realised, but because of the motor poking out of the bonnet, if someone's got their hand on the blower and someone starts it,
Yeah.
they're going to chew their hand off or shut the bonnet and
Yeah.
take the head off. So I said, maybe we should do this as a line of sight thing. You know, can we reduce it down to maybe 10 metres?
Yeah. 30k to 10 metres.
So he did, and it's still in there now.
Yeah.
Like when you walk past it, if you turn your phone on, it actually comes up with Psycho.
Really?
Yeah, like as in a Wi-Fi type.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So what did that car there, what did that win?
That one, every trophy that it went up into. Like, so it's an elite show car. They can drive it. They've driven it around Hobart and places, and, you know, look, it's an angry animal of a thing. You know, it makes way too much power for what it needs, but it was so far advanced. The trim was just out there. You know, that was a dividing car. Like, you either hated it or loved it. You know, there was no in between. People loved it for the workmanship, but hated it because it just looked out there.
Yeah.
You know, because it's basically bright pink, purpley colour with a bright orange interior.
Yeah.
You know,
It's different.
isn't it? Yeah.
And then you've gone, like, someone's gone and chopped a car and made it look different to what it ever looked like
Yeah.
before. And
Yeah.
it's always going to have lovers and haters.
Yeah, you know, so, like, it was just one of those cars that we were so lucky to be a part of, and they let us run with a fair bit of stuff, you know. But one of the things Shane wanted, he wanted a steel bumper bar on the front. And I said to him, look, we were running out of time and, you know, like, I didn't know what to do and stuff like that. And I said, I'll start on it. I'll get about 3/4 of the way through it, and then if you like it, we'll keep going. If you don't, we'll stop. We'll put the plastic one back on it. It was about 250 hours into the bumper bar. I sent him some photos, and he goes, "Yeah, I love it." Oh, fuck. At least I've got to finish it now. So it's all steel, front and rear bars, you know, the whole thing. So, yeah, it was a car that it won every award. Best engineered, best paint, best trim, best this, best that, best everything. You know, like, just won for years. Probably 2 years running. You know, everywhere it went, it just won everything.
So how does that go for your business? Your name,
Those cars,
obviously Maskell goes up against that now. How does that?
It's strange. I don't recall ever getting a customer that's rang up and said, "Hey, you worked on such and such's car.
Oh, really?
Can you build mine?" Don't remember it ever happening. It obviously helps because they know that you can do it. But what ended up happening was people going, "Well, that car cost a lot of money, so he's too expensive."
Oh.
So it didn't backfire on us, but it didn't. But you don't charge when you're building an elite show car. Well, I've never charged the full amount on any car, But on those, there's a lot of hours in there for nothing.
Yeah.
And when I say a lot of hours, I'm not talking 10 hours. Tens of hundreds of hours.
Yeah, I was going to say like 250 hours just on the bumper.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
And that was free
Yeah.
at that point. I wasn't charging because I didn't know if I could do it. You know, because I'm sitting there every night working till stupid hours, going, I think I'll get this. I think this will work. I think this will work. And then Shane's going, yep, go for it. But there's a lot of hours for free, but it doesn't actually get you work for some reason.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, none of them ever have. Yeah, I don't remember anyone ever ringing up and saying, hey, you built such and such. Can you build my car?
Surely they know that in the back of their head.
They know that they know you can do it, and they know what cars you built, but they don't actually say it out loud.
Yeah.
You know, they don't say, oh, you built XBOSS, or you did this, or you did that.
Yeah.
I want you to do mine. They go, I think it's just...
They probably don't say it, but the same thing goes that, like, when the next one comes along, let's just say, for example, XBOSS, with your history and what you've achieved, that gets you a gig like that.
It
helps.
helps.
You know what I mean? Whereas if you had nothing of that caliber before, then potentially you might not have got those other...
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and a car, when they're at that level, there's a lot of faith between you and the owner.
Yeah.
You know, like, they know they're going to spend a lot of money. You know you've got to do a lot of work, you know, but you got to get the results at the end.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part. It's getting the results.
That was a big car. What came after that? What was the next one?
Mission Impossible.
Is that the Q? The
The
coupe?
QE. It was Maryland. It was silver when we got it.
Yep.
Where do the names come from?
Psycho come from its rims. That they on the first car it had that shaped rim. Actual fact, I think the front rims were from the first car, and they were called Psycho. So it sort of naturally evolved. So Psycho. If you look at Psycho's colours, Psycho's purple.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the purple wasn't chosen because it was called Psycho. The car was called Psycho before that happened. XBOSS, XB, and it's got a Boss motor in it. I called Mission Impossible. It was called Maryland. And then when I sat down and had a talk with them at MotorX in July, they wanted it repainted for the next one. I went, oh, no worries, we can repaint it. Hadn't looked at the car because you got to remember. So Psycho, right? So I'm having a conversation with Mission Impossible on the Monday morning after MotorX. So leading up to MotorX with Psycho, right? I'd worked months and months with not a lot of sleep. The last 8 days, I had a total of 20 hours sleep. The last 3 days, I hadn't slept. Right, so get to MotorX Friday. I'm asleep the whole day. They're setting the car up, and then these guys asked me to paint the car. Yep, no worries, I can paint a car. That's easy. After what I've just gone through, that's easy. Hadn't looked at their car, even though it was right next to Psycho. I should have. And then they dropped it off on the way to home. They lived in Adelaide, so they've come past my place, dropped the car off, and we've rolled it out, and I'm looking at it and going, oh man, this car needs to be sandblasted and go back to the start. There's a lot wrong with this car. And they go, no, we don't want to sandblast it, but we need you to change the colour. But where do I change the colour from? Everything on this car, there's no stop. The sills normally have a stop. This car goes flat underneath. So we go, right, we got to do this car. We've got 12 months to have it finished. So in that 12 months, it's been a lot of fabrication, all the engine bay. We built all the billet, aluminium grille, headlights, tail lights, exhaust cutouts, made all the panels for it all to fit, modified every panel back on the car, except for the bonnet. That's the only part of the car we didn't actually do any welding on. The roof rails, retrimmed, new gauges, new wiring, pulled the motor out, redid a lot of work on the motor and gearbox, and all in 12 months.
That escalated.
Yeah, a little bit.
Jesus.
So just as we were sort of getting 3/4 into it, I said to the owners, "Oh man, this what you guys keep asking." So he had the money, she owns the car, so she'd ring up and say, "Greg, I want you to do this. Can you do that?" Yeah, we can do that, but it's going to cost a fair bit. Yeah, just do it. All right, so we do it. He rings up and goes, "Greg, why is this costing so much? Talk to your wife." So
wow.
in the middle of this,
Jesus.
I've said something along the lines of,
Normally the other way
"Man,
around.
this thing's impossible. Like it's like Mission Impossible," and it just stuck.
Yeah, okay.
So it's on the bonnet now and stuff. I think it's on the gauges. So so it just stuck as Mission Impossible. And again, when we went to paint that car, so we were 21 days out from the show, and we had to paint that car, and I had to paint all of the engine bay, all of the exterior of the car, and the dash at the same time because, like I said, there's nowhere to stop.
Flows, yeah.
So the three of us had two guys helping me, one on each end of the rotisserie, and they kept the booth sort of clean while I painted. I fired the booth up at 7 o'clock a.m. in the morning, and I turned the booth off at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Really?
Didn't stop. Julie was heavily pregnant with our boys, and she was making us bacon and egg rolls at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the boys, like, to their credit, man, they, like, Bo and Clint, they just hammered all night, and then I was just ready to clean up and said, "You guys might as well go home," so they've gone home, and I've cleaned the guns up and turned everything off, and I remember hearing, because Pete had left in the afternoon the day before, and I remember I'd shut the shed, and I remember hearing Pete's car drive in at 8 o'clock as I was walking, because we lived inside the shed at the time, walking into bed going, "Oh man, I need to go to sleep." Like, so talk about doing it hard.
Yeah.
Jeez, do you hear this reoccurring thing going on with all these big builds?
Yeah, it doesn't stop there, trust me.
No. Far out.
So
So that achieved pretty
well
well too?
It sort of did, but it sort of didn't.
Okay.
And I don't want to disrespect anyone. The guy that owned it was a pretty sort of hard character to get along with.
Okay.
He upset a few people in the industry.
Yeah.
And
I'll sniff politics here.
yeah, and he was hard on us. He was hard on the judges. He was hard on everybody. And I think Street Machine actually did a full photo shoot, and he actually made it happen in his shed, bad lighting and everything, had a security guy there, and then demanded stuff with Street Machine magazine, and they just went, "Nah," canned the whole thing. After the photo shoot, they paid the photographer the whole lot. So it was a bit hard,
That's
So we
different.
never got much coverage,
Okay.
basically, with that car.
Might move on from that one.
Yeah, it was a hard one.
That's different.
It was hard in a lot of
Yeah, I
ways.
suppose you got to hear about the shit parts too, though. That's
That's right.
pretty
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
That's very interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to know about.
Okay, let's go.
So you go onto the website, you go onto the brag board. If you scroll down, what the hell is Samson?
Righto, so Samson, people will know of Pip Borman.
Yeah.
So Pip, I knew Pip not well, but reasonably well for a few years previous. And Pip would call in every now and then. Anyway, called in one day, and I knew he was building Samson. I knew he was building it. And he goes, "You reckon you could paint it?" And I went, "Yeah, why? Look, it's only paint." And then
Comes out of a gun.
I'll bring me roller around.
and probably a bloke should learn to ask questions first,
Yeah.
Anyway, Samson's actually not like, it's got different substrates. Like, it's got a cloth on the wings and the fuselage. It's got aluminium. It's got carbon fibre. You name it. There's wood. There's everything in there. So I ended up painting that for Pip. There was a lot of work involved in it. There's a lot of testing because the material flaps at supersonic speed. So we had to make a paint.
Did we say it was a plane to everyone? Does everyone
sorry.
know it was a plane?
For those that are listening,
For those of you
this is-
listening, it's actually a plane.
It's a biplane.
It's a biplane.
Well, it's actually a stunt plane built to do
Yeah.
stunts and stuff like that. And funny I asked this question because there's only one part. Pip sadly passed away in that aeroplane a few years back.
Yeah.
There was a fault with the fuel system. But today I actually picked up the only surviving piece. So when we did the test pieces, they're about a foot square and they got material on them. And I painted them. We would cut them off, screw them up, twist them around to see if the paint would stick. And I think we did 5 different variables. And the 4th one worked. So the 5th one survived. And that stayed in Pip's shed for a while. And then one day he just showed up for a cup of tea at night and said, hey, you might as well have this. You can throw it out if you want. I went, oh, right. And I just put it on the bench. A couple of months later, Pip was gone. And I put it aside. And I actually picked that piece up this afternoon.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, weirdly. I haven't picked it up for years. Yeah, so that was pretty cool to be a part of. You know, Big Red.
Yeah.
Big radial in it. That was just the coolest sounding thing you've ever heard,
That was a monster.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I still always remember being at home and you'd always hear the
Yeah.
like when you Pip's out and you'd come out the front yard and
Yeah.
watch for half an hour.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was
cool.
unreal.
Yeah, that was a really cool thing to be a part of. You know, because something that I didn't think I was ever going to be
No,
a part
for sure.
of.
No.
It's different.
That's the customs coming out.
Yeah,
in the name.
exactly. Yeah, no, that was fun, that one. You know, like, yeah, hard, but it was
Absolutely.
fun. So, yeah, and I didn't have a spray booth at the time, so we painted it in the shed, just pushed the cars out,
Yeah.
being red. And there's a lot of paint on that thing.
Yeah.
It was red on everything.
Yeah, I bet there was.
There was red on the walls, there was red on the floor, there was red on the benches, there was red on Julie's car, there was red on everything. Pretty hard to hide that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the biggest one I want to know about, which I called the XBOSS before,
You're not the first.
the XBOSS. Tell me a little bit about that.
Righto. So, a lot of people think we built it, and we didn't. Right? So, Chris and Chris's mates built it in his back shed,
This is the owner.
the owner. So,
Yep.
Chris Bitmead owns it. Chris and Colleen Bitmead.
Yep.
And I was mates with Chris before the car. I'd met Chris when we did Psycho, I think it was. Might have been before that. And Chris had built a hot rod and did reasonably well with it. And then he just wanted to build a car that was a cruiser and have some fun with. And like all good projects, got out of hand. So I'll abbreviate this because this will go on for hours
That's okay.
otherwise. So Chris has started the car, got some mates to help. And then they'd just on a Tuesday night all come around and Colleen would cook them food. And then someone, when they finished tea, would grab a dart, throw it against the map of the world. And wherever the dart landed, that's what she would cook the next Tuesday night.
Oh, wow.
You know, so it might be Spanish or Australian or,
Yeah.
you know, like,
I might try that later.
who knows? You know, like, yeah.
Probably get slapped for that. But
Probably. So, and as you can imagine, Colleen's a good cook. And, so the more mates would come around. And then at some stage, Chris had asked me to help with the fabrication or the metalwork, and I was doing Psycho. And then the next year, he rang up and he asked for something else. And, you know, and I was doing... So I was doing Psycho, and then that didn't get finished for that show. And then the next year he rang, I was doing Psycho. And then the next year he rang, I was doing Mission Impossible and Psycho, getting ready for the show. And then the next year he rang, and he said, look, I'm not taking no for an answer this time. Like, you keep coming up with these cars, but surely you can't have anything else to do. I need you to come and do the filler work, the body work on it for us. And I said, look, I can't. And he said, I'm not taking no for an answer. I don't care what your excuse is. I'm flying you over and you're going to do all the work. And I said, look, nobody knows this at the moment. My mum, dad, nobody knows this. Julie's pregnant with twins. And we can't tell anyone because we're not at that
yeah,
safe,
not far along.
safe zone.
Yep.
And he goes, oh, fuck it.
You can't.
So he goes, oh, all right, I'll let you off on this one. Anyway, so fast forward a couple of years, some guys in Perth had done Chris's mates, Travis, I think, had done most of the work. Mark had done a hell of a lot of work, and they built the headlights, the indicators, you name it, on that car. They'd done it.
Yep.
And the car was actually bodyworked and painted, but there was a real issue with the paint. And Chris said, he rang me up and he said, look, this is right on Christmas. He said, we're supposed to be in the container to go to Detroit. Everyone knew about the car, but nobody'd seen it because for the Riddler Award, right? So you've got the Detroit Autorama, and there's about 1,000 cars entered. And inside that, you can compete for the Riddler. So the year we went, there was 53, I think, and only 8 can get into the Riddler, right? So the grade 8. And then there's only one winner. No second place. There's 7 seconds, but only one winner, right? There's only one trophy. So anyway, so Chris has rang me and said, look, we're not happy. There's a lot of issues with the paint. There's a lot of issues with this. There's that. Can you come over, have a look at it? We need you to paint it. I said, mate, I can't fly over and paint it over there. He said, no, I'll send it to you. I said, all right. So 2 weeks later, I'm in Perth, having a look, meeting some of the guys. I already knew a couple of them. Stayed with Chris a couple of days. Got what we thought was a plan together. The car come to us in February, and then we started working on it, and there was a whole heap of issues. Like, we started sanding things, and the paint peeled off.
Oh.
So we had to peel everything off, sand everything, go right back to pretty much the start. Had to re-gap every panel on the car, like every piece. So all the interior, all the suspension, all of the body panels, every part of that car has I think it's 3 mil gap on all of the things that are like don't move. Like, so the boot, doors, and bonnet move. So they got a 4 mil gap, and every other part of the car. So all the trim pieces that line up with each other have a gap, and it's a perfect gap, like within 0.2 of a mil from top of the door to the bottom of the door. That's the most we would allow if it has it. So every part of that car had to be gapped, re-sanded, re-straightened. I painted that car. That was probably going to be one of my very last paint jobs. And then sanding and buffing. I think Chris and I worked it out. So on Psycho, there's about 30 something parts to be painted. On that car, 427 parts.
How?
Everything's painted except for the hoops on the wheels and the exhaust. All covered in leather. Everything else is painted. The alternator,
Really?
and there's 3 or 4, 5, 6 bits of an alternator.
Yeah.
You know, the starter motor, there's 3 or 4 parts of a starter motor, every nut and bolt, every piece. And everything has been sanded and polished. So there's just in the body, not the motor, gearbox, or diff. I don't think the diff. But the rest of the car, all the interior is satin. So it's the exterior and the engine bay. It's 2,500 hours just in sanding and polishing.
I can't get my head around that.
So level of madness.
2,500 hours of sanding and
That's
polishing.
before Detroit. And then every show we went to, we spent 2 weeks prepping the car. Not sanding and polishing, but generally polishing. So you're going to do the maths.
He's got the math. He's got the calculator out.
Well, to the average person who works a 40-hour week, that's 62.5 weeks
Yeah.
It's over. Yeah.
on just sanding
So
and
we
polishing.
had, at the time I had 6 people working for us. I was the 7th. We had a row of guys, just the guys at the other end, they were doing the core sanding, and then as it come down, it was a production line. And then I was doing the buffing. That's on the small sections, like the door trims on the inside of the car, any small parts. I did all of the sanding on the body, doors, underneath, engine bay. Just like Chris is in Perth, right? So he's a couple of hours behind us. So I was going to bed after Chris, and I was in the shed before Chris. There's a theme here.
Yeah.
Revert back to previous conversations.
Yeah.
So it was just crazy, because we had to have it finished because it had to be in the container to go to Detroit. And then even in Detroit, the car got there 3 weeks before, and I'm part of the toolbox. That was the deal. I've always travelled with the car. I've actually been to every show except for 2, I think. And I think Chris has missed about 5 shows. So I've been to more shows than Chris with that car. So I'm part of the toolbox. So when we went to Detroit, we were in a workshop. It was a fabrication shop, not a paint shop. So I was just prepping sand and paint and just making sure things are right, because there's sort of a thing that's, I can't remember what they call it, but it shocks the paint. So when it left Perth, right, and the stats on this car are phenomenal. There's just stats everywhere. So if you Google furthest point of the globe from Detroit, it's about 200 kilometres west of Perth, which is in the water. So Perth is the furthest part of the globe. So the car couldn't go further if it tried. So it's gone in a shipping container, 20-foot shipping container, locked up in about 37 or 39 degrees here in... So imagine locking the doors on a 39-degree day, right? It's got to Philadelphia in a blizzard, right?
You're like minus 40 or something.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And then when we were there, it was freezing, it was snowing, the whole lot. And we bought a 6-pack of water or a 12-pack of water, and we had it in the back of the car. And the next morning, like this is our normal car to drive around, it was frozen. And the guys over there were saying, don't put what we call soft drinks, pop. Soda.
Yeah.
Don't put that in the back of your car. Don't put it in your car because it'll explode. It's a freezer.
Yeah.
So it's gone through this thermal shock, so we were worried that the paint might deteriorate, like it might dull off. So I just spent the next 2 weeks on the buff, Saturday, Sunday, all day, every day. Chris and Mark did a few tours, but I just worked on the car the whole time, because we wanted it at its best. Even at the show, I was still polishing and making sure things were perfect. Yeah. It was madness. It really was.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So how daunting is it to get over to America and go up against the Yanks, and because they're pretty fanatics on their cars,
mate? Yeah, Chris, to his credit, like it's phenomenal. Chris has just got this level head, right? Like, and he just brings everybody to this level of calmness most of the time. So no matter what goes wrong, and there's a lot on a car like that goes wrong. Benny knows cars. When have you ever worked on a car that's just been straightforward?
No, it hurts my head thinking about it.
So this car, Chris's mates, they'd worked their asses off, and it was doing their head in, and then it was doing my head in. And then when we're over there, you're up against some good stuff. Right, you don't know how good because you've never seen it.
Yeah,
Chris and Mark had been over there and worked it out a couple of years before. We had an issue with the bonnet, so I rang a mate here in Sydney and said, "Hey, look, I need to paint the bonnet. We're in a fabrication shop, but I need to be able to paint a bonnet. It's in PPG. Do you know anyone?" He goes, "I know a bloke." He goes, "I'll send you Jeff's number. Text him and see if you can do it there." I said, "All right, no worries." So I get a phone call or a text message. So I sent Jeff a message. "Hey, mate, I need to paint a bonnet," which they don't know what a bonnet is.
Oh, a hood.
A hood.
Yeah.
So I need to paint a bonnet. Have you got somewhere I can paint it? Sends a message back. "Hi, Greg. What's a bonnet?"
Oh, that's pretty funny. Good start.
So yeah. So we're off to a good start. So I send a message back. It's a hood. When do you want to do it? Oh, fuck this. So I ring him up and say, "Hey, mate, look, we need to paint it and paint it now. We've bought a car from Australia to go to the Riddler." And he goes, "Oh, righto. So you're going to the Autorama." Yeah. That's an odd thing to say, but anyway.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'll send you an address. When do you want to do it?" I said, "Look, I can be there today, or we can drop it off today and paint tomorrow, whatever suits you. I don't want to interrupt your workforce."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, no worries." He said, "Bring it here this afternoon. and then paint it tomorrow. So, all right, beautiful. So we borrow the Ram. Off we go. Don't know where we're going, just following an address. Pull up, sign out the front, PPG Training Centre.
Oh,
You're joking me. Probably the best place we could go,
Yeah.
you know. So we walk in. I got Standox written all over me.
good job.
Walk in, they're doing a class.
Oh,
They've moved the class out of the spray booth into their room, and we walk in. Oh, you're the 3 Aussies. Yep, that'd be us.
yeah. G'day, mate.
Just parked me kangaroo out the car park.
So then set it up, and then got talking to a few of the guys, and then went back the next day, and I painted it, and the old shit's there in the PPG and Standox and stuff like that, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that was really good. And the whole time, everyone's going, oh, you're going to the Autorama. You know, we're going, yeah, we're going to the Autorama. We're going to the Riddler. And, oh, yeah, you're going to the Autorama. A couple of days later, the 2 trainers show up at this workshop, and they've walked in, and they're going, oh, man, have a look at this. And they dived under it. They're all over it.
Yeah.
And then they realised we were serious. We were there for a reason.
Yeah.
So when you sprayed this car, when you went to their premises and sprayed it, did you just have the hood, or did you have the whole car?
Nah, just the hood. Just took it off the
So
car.
they didn't know really what was
Nah,
happening.
they didn't know what it was, you know, and they didn't know what an XB Falcon was, sort of thing. You know, they kind of knew, but not really. Google was a wonderful thing. Anyway, so we prepped the car. The very last, I think it was, I'm trying to think of the day. Sunday afternoon, I reckon it was, or was it Monday? We had the car on the hoist, cleaned all underneath, and so the car had never been finished, as in had the wheels on it, had the trim in it, had everything. It was never ever, till this day. We had the wheels on it, it was all finished, on the hoist down the back of the shed, lowered it down off the hoist, put it on some wheel trolleys, and we're pushing it, because we didn't want the tyres to get dirty. Pushing it back to the office, technically, where we were detailing the car, all happy as. We're pushing along, and one of the trolleys hit a crack in the concrete, come out from under the tyre, smashed into the bottom of the sill, took a massive chunk of paint out. Now, under the car, so if you know the car, it's blue with a 1.5 millimetre green pinstripe and then charcoal. That's the same under the car. And I remember right now, I'll never forget it. It's just gone bang, and the car's just stopped moving, and I heard this crunch. I was at the front, and I looked and gone, oh no. And I just stood still. I was at the headlight, and I'd seen Chris walk around the side of the car, the owner, Chris Bitmead, and he looks under it, and he just turned around, dropped his head, and he's gone, oh, fuck no. And right then I thought, if Chris has that reaction, we are screwed. I just went, oh, what am I going to do? Like, do I walk up and have a look at it? And one of the Americans, the workers, was on that corner. It wasn't his fault, but he just took it like it was all his fault. Those guys were building 2 cars for the Riddler in the workshop as well. Wow. So they knew what they were up against. Yeah. I walked up, had a look under it, and I looked at Mark, and I said, let's do this. We'll fix it now. And he goes, how? I said, let's get it back to the hoist because I can work on it on the hoist. I said, Mark, you're good with filler. Mark's brilliant. Mark can do anything. I said, you're good with filler. You start doing that. I'll start mucking around with some paint. So this is in a fabricating workshop, right? Yeah. Sanding, grinding, welding. So get it back on the hoist, get it up there, mask up. Mark's starting to do some filler, sand it all, get it all smooth and straight. I'm mixing up paint, get down there, blend it all in. The next morning, buff it. It's never been touched since. No one's ever spotted it. No one's ever seen the mark where it hit. Yeah, we did, and within the next day, it was all done. You know, like we busted our arse, and then we go to put it in the trailer to go the 40-mile trip. It's blizzard. As we're pushing it in the trailer, the back of the trailer drops down. So this is in the workshop. All the water on the roof of the trailer.
Oh. All over the car.
Painting a good picture here.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get it to Detroit. We everybody was loved it. Everybody was impressed with it. It was just an amazing experience, like totally amazing experience.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen in my life. I got photos. I was trying to explain the car to a guy. I'm probably 10 metres away, and I couldn't see the car. I'm trying to talk to this guy about the car, and I couldn't see it for the people around it all weekend. It just had that many people around it. It was amazing. What an amazing experience.
So you didn't win, though.
No. Chris won. I can't remember the name of the award, which, from what I gather, I'm probably wrong, but there's always room for translation.
Yeah.
So Chris won an award that's given to a competitor throughout the building. Doesn't have to be a Riddler car. In actual fact, it's never been a Riddler car before. And the award's given to someone from the judges that best represents what's being built right now. Right. So as you know, cars vary as you build them. Different designs and stuff like that. And Chris won that award. But no, there was a car there that we thought was going to win, and I was in a conversation with the owner and about 6 other guys, and the owner of that car thought we were going to win. And I know the painter of that car, Charlie Hutton, and Charlie said to me that he thought that XBOSS was going to win it. In actual fact, that's probably my most honourable things everyone ever said to me. Charlie, who's regarded as the world's best painter, said to me that's the best paint job he's ever seen in his life.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Done here in Shep East.
Yep.
Yeah, it's massive.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that obviously don't follow that sort of thing, but I remember for years and years buying the Hot Rod magazines and always looking at the Riddler Award and the Autorama and stuff, and then when your name and XBOSS and that came up and that car was there, I think I had to read it 10 times to actually believe it.
Yeah.
It's just blown my mind.
So to put it into context for some people, right? So the Riddler in the car world, most prestigious custom car show in the world. So that's like competing and being at the pointy end of I don't know, tennis. You know, playing at Wimbledon or
It's like Olympics,
Tour de France.
Yeah, it's
it's at the pointiest end of our field.
Yeah.
There's no other. Yeah. So Charlie, right? Charlie's painted 5 winning cars. Right. Of that, he's painted 3 for Foose.
Yeah.
And 2 others.
wow.
One that we competed against naturally.
And he gave you the compliment to say that's the best paint job
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Yeah, Charlie's a very humble guy. He's and he's the sort of guy anyone can ring and say, "Hey, Charlie, I'm having trouble with this. How do I do it?" And he'd help you. You know, he's just a great bloke.
Yeah.
But when he said that to me, I sort of went, shit. And there's another guy there, Jason Kilmer. Jason's detailed, like he's a detailer, so sanding and polishing and detailing cars. So he's done, I think there was 3 Riddler winners and 2 from Pebble Beach. Now, Pebble Beach is the classic cars,
Yeah.
you know, like the early Bugattis and the stuff like that. And he's been 2 of them. And I was polishing that thing, the XBOSS, polishing away. And I sort of I wear glasses. I'm looking, Jason's over there polishing that car. What's he doing? I'm starting to watch, righto. And then I notice he's looking at me. I'm looking at him, trying not to look at him, but I'm looking at him. He's sort of looking at me. Then he gets up and I'm going, uh-oh, what have I done?
What are you looking at?
Yeah. He comes over and he goes, Greg, can you stop? I said, what do you mean? And he goes, you're making us look bad. I said, what do you mean? And he goes, I've never seen a car with that good of reflection in my life. And I go, so this is 2
of the best
awesome
in the world.
best in the world comments
Yeah.
before the show starts. You know, so...
That's unreal.
But in all of this, and not many people probably know what I'm about to tell you, all right? There's a very, very few... I probably shouldn't even tell you, but you can cut it out if you want. So... On the Sunday night, the awards are handed out. I don't think you probably don't even know this.
I probably wouldn't.
All the awards are handed out, right? All done. Sunday night, the judges come back to you and say to you, "Do you want your results?"
Yeah.
So most people would say yes. So Chris has said yes, and I would have said yes, definitely. In actual fact, I think I did. And they hand us a piece of paper. So I think the winning car had like 5 faults. We had 8, and then the next one to us had 30 something. you know.
Wow.
So Chris starts, so we're all standing around, you know, the couple of us that were there. This is Sunday night pack-up time. Chris starts reading them out. Paint issue. I can't remember what they were. There was something like there was, like they put their fingers inside where the hinges pivot from, and they could just feel a bit of dryness in there. So that's a fault, you know. The faults are so minute, it's ridiculous,
so critical,
you know.
yeah.
But that's
you're at the pointy end, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're dealing with the best in the world.
And it sort of got to the point, I think we're about 5 in, I'm thinking, these are all me. This is all me that hasn't got Chris to win. And I actually had a full-on, and I'm not, no bullshit aside, a full-on mental breakdown. I just went to pieces. I could have jumped off a cliff and I would have been happy. I just turned and walked because I just had this all god-awful feeling. I just let Chris and his family and his mates,
Massive build-up,
Australia, down. And I've just gone, no way. How could I have done that to Chris? One of my best mates, best bloke on the planet. And I just turned and I walked. And I didn't know where I was going, had no idea what I was going to do. And I hear Chris yelling out, Greg, where you going? Greg. He chased after me. And long story short, I was just blown apart. And they had to ring Julie in Australia to talk to me, but that didn't help. You know, I don't even know what helped. There was a lot of things go wrong over in America, paint, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
One of my mates' mums passed away, the whole lot. But this just, man, it shattered me. Like, even today, I still feel responsible that car didn't win because of what I did. But it wasn't that. It was just the combination of everything.
Yeah.
There was a few trim issues, but, yeah, the majority was paint. And I just went, no, that's all my responsibility. You know, so I was just devastated. But in Chris's manner and that person that he is, and he's just this super good bloke, he's calmed me down and just gone, no, look, it's us. We're here as a team. You know, and all the other guys come in and they seen me and talk to me and, you know, but yeah, it was just that much pressure. And after all of this, so I don't know, 2 years later, I'm talking to Charlie on the phone and Charlie says, I'm doing another one. And I said, I thought you weren't going to do any more Riddler cars. And he goes, I'm doing a car, but it's not going to go for the Riddler. I'm doing another one that could, they'll compete, but they won't make the grade 8. They'll go in as a thing. And then I told him about what happened. And then he started telling me he'd had similar issues. That this show just puts that much pressure on you. It's just a boiling pot of just stress, you know. Yeah. And then I found out over the years, same thing with others, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a phenomenal show, and you just don't want to go that far without, you know, doing well.
And you need more sleep.
And clearly that time I did.
Well, at the end of the day, though, like, yes, there's only one winner and the rest of them are runner-ups. But if the winner had 5 faults and you guys had 8 and the rest of them had 30-odd, well, clearly it shows that you're second. So.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what Charlie said to me. Like, this is 2 years down the track. Charlie said to me, you know, like, Greg, like, you didn't have that many issues, you know, and what they were was so minute, it was ridiculous, you know, but it's just...
That's the nature of how
we just had less.
Yeah.
Remembering, too, you're an Australian from over here.
Yeah.
The Americans don't like to lose at all.
No. Not at their game.
No, that's what I'm saying. So there's probably no way known you would have won at all.
And Chris, before we even left, Chris never wanted to win. He just wanted to be able to get to the grade 8. He said, if I get to the grade 8, that's all I want.
That's massive.
You know, and he's not the proudest moment. His kids and everything like that are. But with that car, the proudest moment is when they handed him this sticker that's the size of a 50-cent piece to put on your windscreen that says grade 8. That's
pretty crazy.
I just remember looking at Chris and this smile and proudness. But never does Chris ever go, this is my car. It's always, this is our car.
Yeah.
And he means that by his family and his mates that helped him and supported him. And, you know, like, it's always ours, you know. So
does he ever drive it?
I've driven it more.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
We took it to Bathurst, and I think I did 5 laps of Bathurst, and he did 3. So yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. He's driven it at home a couple of times, but it's been sold.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, he sold it. I went and got it February 2020, so it started just before COVID, and by the time I got home, we were bringing it back to go for a big trophy here in Australia at Motor X. And we were bringing it back just to compete for that, but then COVID kicked in, and the shows got delayed, and he rang me up one day and he just said, I think I'm going to sell it. And I said, what? And he goes, well, you've had it for 18 months and I haven't missed it.
Oh, really? Yeah,
So, and the market's good.
Yeah.
So why not? And I went, oh. And I think I took it harder than he did.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Did he get
XBOSS.
good coin for it?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of, it was
Can
a
you
bit
give
of
us a ballpark?
there's a whole story in it. Yeah. So it went for auction through Grays. We dropped it off at Grays, whenever it was. I can't remember the date. And it went for auction, and it made $460,000. And then so Chris was happy with that. It's all right. I'm happy with that. And then the next morning they ring him up and said, look, we had a problem with the server. It crashed, or the servers. They crashed last night. So the 3 top bidders were going to put it back to them and let it go again. So they did, and he got $860,000 for it. So he's $400,000 better off than he already was.
I was going to say it's worth a lot more than 400.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And look, he probably, I can honestly tell you, like, I have no idea what it's cost him. I've never asked him. I think he was going to tell me once, and I said to him, don't. I don't want to know. Because if someone asked me, I don't want to lie.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what it's cost him. But, yeah, so...
It's not just the car, though, like the expense of all the travelling and everything like that. Like,
Yeah.
you'd be tipping over $2 million.
Well, that car there, like, so that's the only car that has ever won the Grand Slam in Australia. So that car went every state title in less than 12 months. So, which has never been done in Australia in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So it was all done in 12 months, So he had a really good ride with it, like it just got so much exposure. And I think over in Perth, someone rang up, I can't remember what show it was. I should be able to remember this because you could Google it. It was Tonight or something like that. And they wanted to do somebody wanted or rang them up to do a story, and they said, oh, look, like, it's a car thing. We don't get many views on car things. The most amount of views we've ever had is 40,000, and that won't get anywhere near it. That car now has had 3.5 million views on that one show.
Wowzers.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's an
pretty
insane
mad.
car. Like, it really is.
And awesome to be a part of.
Oh, look, yeah.
Again, this little bloke from Shep East. And
Yeah. One of my proudest things ever to be a part of is
Yeah.
definitely that.
It's it's massive.
Yeah.
There is a quote for that. That's no one from outside North America has ever built a car to compete for the Riddler, let alone actually made it to the Grade 8.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we were the first outside of North America. And I think the only other car that actually competed outside of America was Canada. And when you're standing in the building at the Detroit Autorama looking across the water, you're looking at Canada.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, righto.
it's pretty close there.
It's unreal.
Well, the guys were going across the water for breakfast,
Yeah.
having brekkie in Canada and coming back to...
That's classic.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's massive.
Pretty crazy
It was
stuff.
good. It's a great car to be a part of, and Chris is one of my best mates, and it's just formed some great friendships. So it was out of this world,
It is. It still is to even talk about.
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah. It's crazy.
What an absolutely unbelievable career. It's fantastic. to
Let's
watch
hope it
him
doesn't
achieve.
stop there, eh?
Well, it's still
I
obviously
think it
going,
will.
but so far it's been fantastic.
I think
so.
the last time I was talking to you, we mentioned something about Street Machine covers, and you were like, "Oh, I can't remember how many."
Yeah.
It's just
I'm not the sort of guy that keeps account of stuff.
Yeah.
I never do. I'm not that sort of. I'm not a memorabilia sort of guy. One of my mates rang up one day and said, "Oh, you got another Street Machine cover?" with the EH.
Yeah.
No say. And I went, oh, that's cool. He goes, yeah, you got to stop fucking getting them.
That's what we do, mate. So.
Hey, shit happens.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Greg, you've been so generous with your time. It's been fantastic. So before we wrap a few things up. No, not just yet, mate. So,
I'd forgotten about this bit.
I heard you, before we get to that, I heard you like to ride a pushy, as you did when you were 16. I heard you're back on the bike a little bit. You did a recent charity ride or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
So I've got 2 buggered knees. So I'm flat out walking for 10 minutes or standing up for 20 minutes type thing. They're buggered. I need 2 new knees, complete new knees. So I started losing a bit of weight a couple of years ago just by eating a bit better. In other words, not eating hamburgers and hot dogs and pies for smoko, and then doing the same thing for lunch. And then I just sort of discovered a bit of bike riding. Just, I don't know how or why, I can't even remember how it all started. And then for some reason in my head, I must like a challenge from what other people have said to me. And I've gone, that Tour de Cure thing sounds pretty cool. I've always liked watching that and a bit more about that. And another thing I should learn to do is a bit more research before I do stuff.
You've said that a few times.
So I'm sitting there talking to Jules, going, hey, this Tour de Cure thing, what do you reckon? She goes, yeah, that'd be a good thing. Oh, all right. So I get on the phone, Google it. I start Googling it and going, oh, it goes from Geelong to Canberra. So how's it getting to there? So I keep looking, and one of the days goes from Bendigo to Benalla. Well, shit, that's got to go through Shep. My kids go to Shep East Primary School, which is on the highway. Hey, Jules, I'm going to join this. I'm going to do this. She goes, oh, yeah, no worries. Just yells it out. Yeah, no worries. So, righto, sign up. Do all the signing, you know. I had to put $1,000 in because that kind of covers your expenses. But you got to raise $12,000, right? And that was my biggest fear ever. Like, jumping out of a plane shits me or scares me. I've never done it. I won't do it. But raising $12,000 was just another thing, whole different level. Anyway, so I've joined up. I'm all happy. I'm going to do Tour de Cure. 1,400 kilometres in 9 days. So they ring up and go, oh, Greg, you know, thanks for joining, you know, blah, blah, blah. Where you from? Shepparton East. And we're probably going to ride through Shepparton East. She goes, oh, no, I don't think we do. Oh. Hey? What do you mean? No, I think they're going to go through Violet Town. Like Merch, Violet Town. You're shitting me. That's kind of like 30 Ks or more from us. Yeah. Maybe more. I don't know how far it is.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, that's about right. You know, like on the Sunday we go through. Sunday? We don't even go through Shep East on a school day? And she goes, no, why? No, the dates are all there. So, oh, Jesus, I better get on I started having a look. Sure enough, my whole plan wasn't going to work. Like, they're going to go through this area on a Sunday, so the kids aren't going to be at school anyway, you know. Not even close to Shepparton. Yeah. Oh, should have researched it a bit more. But in the end, much to everybody's good donations and stuff like that, I raised just under, I think it was $100 under $26,000.
Wow.
That was huge. Wow. It was a hard ride, like, don't get me wrong. Mentally and physically, like, it's a long time. And it's a lot of training and prep work and just being sitting in the seat, you know. Like you've spoken to other bike riders and they'll tell you how hard stuff is. But,
that's right.
you know, I'm not built for bike riding really. I'm 6'3" and 100 kilos, bit under now. But, yeah, I'm not that built for bike riding. But it was a good ride. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, okay. It was huge.
You raised $26,000. That's pretty good.
Oh, it was massive.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of it.
Yeah, I reckon. That's awesome.
Yeah. But it was hard, yakka.
Man, it was hard. It was.
Yeah.
I don't even want to do it in a car, let alone on a bike.
He doesn't need to sleep.
He doesn't sleep at all.
Well, I've been known to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and start riding.
Oh, dear Lord.
You're an idiot.
I'm not going to say.
Well, I used to wake up and eat. Now I wake up and ride.
Yeah, I'd do that one, but
I wake up and go back to sleep. Is
Yeah,
what I do. So.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't do it. And I think what it is just all these years of building cars. Because you can wake up. Like if you go to bed at 3 a.m. and you need to get up at 5, you set the alarm and you wake up. If you go to bed at 11 o'clock, you can't set something to make you sleep longer.
No, that's right.
So my body clock just says, dickhead, get out.
Get
Like it's time to wake up and do something.
Yeah, my body clock says go back to sleep. You're an idiot.
too good.
All right, so
Hit him with it.
You've been very generous with your time. It's fantastic. So we always finish the podcast with 3 questions. This first one's going to be ridiculous.
I haven't prepped for this at all.
Well, you don't need to.
No. That's the whole idea.
The first question is, what was your first car?
Tirana.
How many cars you got?
LC now?
How many cars you got now?
5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Can't remember.
Somewhere between 8 and 15.
How many of those cars do you drive?
One that's in the driveway now.
Yeah, one. There's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6.
That you still drive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's another one. I just bought another one. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, dear Lord.
Have you still got the Tirana?
No, that was a dismal failure. That was all the mates going, hey, let's build your car. That'd be cool. Yeah. And it never got finished.
Never got done.
Ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, second question. What's your favourite food? Throw the dart. At the dartboard.
The answer to that used to be lots of food. I don't know now. A good roast, I reckon.
Yeah.
Anything Jules cooks, it's all good.
Roast lamb, roast beef.
Yeah, both.
All of it.
What, you got to make a decision? It's like, who's your favourite kid?
He just compared his kids to the meals. That's the best one yet.
All right, last question. If you can invite 3 people for dinner, any era, dead or alive?
I asked this question at our smoko table 15 years ago, and I can't remember the answer I gave. I don't know. That's a really, really good question. One would be Charlie Hutton, just because I like him. He's a good bloke, and I don't get enough time to talk with him.
Yeah.
Him and his family are just great people. Probably sit down with Charlie a bit and have a bit of a chat with him. Don't know. Like there's so many. That'd be. I'm not a fan based person. I don't have to jump in. Like I went to the World Championships the other week to the cycling thing, and there was world champs everywhere. But they're doing their thing. I do my thing. That's the way it is.
Yeah, you've still got 2 to go.
Yeah, damn, he doesn't get out of that.
He does not let anyone down.
Angus Young.
Angus
Definitely.
Young.
Yeah. Big ACDC fan.
That'd be cool.
I don't even know if he's up there.
Yeah, he's over there.
Is he?
He's hiding in the
He's
corner.
on the wall.
Angus would definitely be up there.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a thing with XBOSS. That's all I listened to while I was polishing it.
Yeah, okay.
And as loud as it could go.
Really?
That's pretty much all I listen to is AC/DC. So Angus would be one of them.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I don't think there's too many people left as ZZ Top. There's 2. Maybe someone from ZZ Top. I like that as a band. Billy Gibbons, probably just because he's cool. He's got a good car collection. He's a guitarist.
Yeah.
Billy's just a cool dude. So he's probably the 3rd one.
Awesome.
Yeah,
which is
right.
odd because it's music people. And I don't listen to much music.
Yeah, but you do cars every day,
Yeah,
day in, day
that's right.
out. So it'd be nice to have some. Be nice to jam with them.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
I don't play music. I just like to listen to them.
No, I'm not saying you need to jam. They can jam
they can
for
jam.
you
Yeah.
because you're inviting them. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic, Grease. It's been an awesome story so far in your life. So there's still plenty to go and still plenty of builds. Thanks for coming on. It's fantastic and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Love it.
So just before we go, Season 2 of Two Blokes from Down Under is brought to us by Ken Mustin Automotive for all your motoring needs. Pop down and see the team for Isuzu Ute, Ram trucks, MG, Jeep, Subaru, and Mercedes-Benz. That's Ken Mustin Automotive, 215 Benalla Road, Shepparton. And this episode was brought to you by Extons of Benalla, proudly family-owned and operated since 1952. Extons are your one-stop shop for all your earthworks, bulk haulage and equipment sales. You can find them at 85 Gilly Street, Benalla, or jump onto their website at extons.com.au. Benny, you're in your prime then, mate.
Yeah, love it.
Went on about your pink car.
Hey, I can call in to see Greg to ask him a question, and 2 hours later I'm still sitting in his desk talking. This is what happens, and that could turn into 5 hours if we wanted it to. Don't worry. Once car guys start talking shit, it never ends.
Oh, it doesn't stop.
Fantastic.
Yeah, love it.
All right, there you go, guys. Another episode of Two Blokes from Down Under. Thanks for tuning in. Wait till the next one. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
2021. Gotta show him I can still rap though. Now I'm in the game, I was on the bench. First I was renting, now I'm collecting rent. Run it up. First it with the Beamer, now I want the Benz. Spending all the back like here I go again.